should be okay.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Item B is the verification of public notice and approval of the agenda.
So move to approve if there are no changes to the agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion by Barry, second by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C, a moment of silence to reflect on the business at hand. Item D, the Watona Area School District Strategic Plan.
Mission statement, create a positive foundation for the success of our children.
Strategic directions, business and community involvement through internships, job shadowing, and mentorship.
Developing and marketing of the district and community through branding.
Improve work and people skills.
Develop parental contacts, promoting school involvement.
Build productive relationships with the medical field to increase the support and open lines of communication to support students with mental health issues.
Item E, recognition of persons wishing to address the board.
David Peterson.
Okay, Mr. Peterson.
My name is David Peterson. I live at M4090 17th Drive, a resident of the district and a property owner in the district and also a bus driver. And I wish to address the reopening plan. I spent the summer so far picking rock and cutting brush, which lends to a lot of alone time because nobody wants to be around you when you're doing that. And I was thinking as a bus driver how I could make my bus the healthiest bus for the students on the bus come fall. Now, years ago when I first started driving, an old bus driver told me that, you know, if you crack that window up by the driver's window, all the odors from the back of the bus will come right up to you. And it really does work. If you don't believe me, you can ask Bill Riley, but he's passed away. But when I had one of my own kids on the bus, he did something that he shouldn't have done, and I think I smelled it before he knew he had done it. So anytime you want to know details on that, you can ask my son David. We still laugh about it now. We didn't at the time. But anyway, this past year, to kind of keep it fresh, I'm outside all winter long, so I like the fresh air. I kept the back window of the bus open on the passenger side about 2 inches all winter long. It was cool back there, but the only ones that complained were the wrestlers when I took them on the wrestling trips. And then I could control the airflow by opening and shutting that window up by me. And you could smell, you know, if somebody opened popcorn, nail polish, was sniffing a pen, or you know, open a can of soda, you could smell all that, and I could still watch the road and drive and know what's going on behind me. Well, then I got to thinking this summer, why isn't there a way that we can control fresh air in that bus a little bit better? And I got the idea when I watched on TV how they did a demonstration about how the particles from your mouth move away from you when you speak, and what a difference the masks make when you have a mask on and how far it goes. So I got to thinking, we got emergency exit up on top of the bus. Maybe if I opened one of those, maybe the air would go, rather than come from the back up to the front, maybe the air would go up and out that thing. But I don't know how to test that. I can't fill a bus full of smoke and drive it down the road. Then the other thing I thought was maybe if we didn't have the hot water running from the engine into the heaters inside the bus, or in the front, the middle, and the back, maybe if we ran those fans on the floor, maybe that would drive the air up if we had those vents open up on top. So I don't know if the school has the equipment that would be necessary to test that, but it seems like all we've heard on the news about buses is they go every other seat and 6 feet apart. Well, that's real good if you live in Washington and Madison and you don't know what the realities of busing kids is. So it'd be interesting if a bus company could figure out how's the best way to keep fresh air moving in that bus and hopefully exiting through the roof so it doesn't go past everybody. The other concern I have is that works as long as the bus is moving. If the bus is standing still, I don't care if you got all the windows down. It becomes a hot can, and there is no air movement. So I would hope that when we start school in the fall, that the kids don't spend a lot of time getting on the bus and sitting parked at Riverview or Parkside. I hope that we can get them on the bus and get moving, because then the air will flow. Personally, after thinking about it tonight and reading, first I saw your reopening plan, I think I'm going to, I always have the older kids in back and the little kids in front, the middle schoolers in the middle. I think my plan, I'm going to think about it some more, but my plan is, if you're the first one on in the morning, you're sitting in the back seats. And as you get on, I don't care if you're in kindergarten or in high school, you'll sit in the back seat, and as you get on, we'll fill from the back to the front. And in the afternoon at Parkside School, we will fill from the back to the front again, but it'll be the first one's off will sit in front, and the last one's off will sit back, and I'm not gonna care about their age or grade or anything, because for the most part, the kids on my bus, we had a few issues in September and October and November, but by February, March, we were getting along just fine, and by the end of March, I kind of missed them. I hope that the school can find somebody that would, and it seems like a bus company ought to be able to tell you that and work something else so that we can keep, the buses need to be moving and keep the fresh air coming in the buses. Then I think we can put more than 22 kids in the bus, or whatever.
Good, thank you. Is there anybody else, Katie?
No.
Okay, item F, staff and student presentations. Number 1 is the proposal for reopening the schools for the upcoming school year.
You guys have either physical presentation or you have it on your devices. I'm sorry, I know you had one earlier, but I don't have actions for you right now. So just before we start, I guess I'd like to say that when April started, we as an admin team started planning really for this moment, and we were meeting sometimes a couple times a week, but the target was always moving. The target was moving fast. We didn't know really what we were chasing. If you would have told me that one of the 3 options would be potentially reopening school and bringing everybody back, like in April or May, I would have said no way. And that moved really quick. And so as we continue to go along, we eventually got to the point where we set up a meeting with the county school districts and the health department. Carrie Francisky's here from the health department. Carrie's also our school nurse. Her contract's up tonight on the board agenda, so that's not why she's here. She's here to support me and support us. So we met on, I believe it was June 15th, and as we were talking about all these options, we were talking things over. We had the meeting right in here. And the thing we said is we really need to survey all of our parents from all 3 school districts to try to get on the same page. I called all of you, or I contacted all of you and said, well, what do you feel about it? You guys were all okay with it. We made it happen. We have the results. The results are in here. And so we'll start going through that. And I just want to reflect back on the admin team. So we have building administrators here. We have Eric, we have Sierra, Julia, Dave Riley, Tammy, food services, Wayne Craig, Katie, the whole Cindy Riley, Nikki Sauter, everybody's contributing to this because everybody has a part in this. Everybody's part is crucial to making this happen. So just so you're aware, this isn't just us. And I know there was some scuttle out there like, hey, why didn't we get parents together? Why didn't we get things? Maybe some community members. There really wasn't time. Like this was just, it was happening so quickly. For me to try to get teams together all the time would have been difficult. And really, to me, you represent the community, you represent the parents, and we've been communicating with you this whole time about what we've been doing. So just so you're aware of that's sort of the stance we took on it. So the survey results, the first question was, how do you feel about sending your child back to school? Trying to, when reasonably possible, physically distance, because we know that's a very challenging thing to do in the classroom, on the bus, at recess, in the hallway. It's going to be a challenging thing to keep children 6 feet apart. All these plans are great until you bring the kids down in the building, and then then everything sort of goes out the window. But obviously we would always try the best we could. It says on here facial coverings may be required on the school bus, but they would not be required in the school setting. And so that was sort of the caveat for this number 1. So 60.1% of the people chose this as their first choice of bringing kids back. You can see almost 16% was their second choice. A pretty strong percentage was their third choice. All right, this is not our first or second choice. This is our third choice. Second question that goes to the alternating days, and we've sort of changed this up on the alternating days because you said Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. I think if we were to ever have to go this route, we would probably look at Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, because we would see the kids every 3 days physically. If you go Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, or Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or you go Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's 5 days in between seeing kids. So it allows us to physically see kids more often if we had to go to an alternating day schedule. So about 28% was their first choice, 66% was their second choice, and third choice 7.2. So I see this, in my opinion, is the popular second choice from both parties. Okay. Third choice is we go virtual, and students are not on school grounds at all. Okay. So about 17% was their first choice, second choice 12.4, and third choice 71%. So pretty resounding is overall this was people's third choice. There was a population of people that was their first choice. Next slide sort of tells you school attendance. So overall, if you add those numbers up, it's about 710 students were represented in the survey, which is a little over 50%. That's pretty good. I think that is a healthy return. I will say, and it's a handful, a little bit of skewed data. Sometimes people don't read directions, so everything was their first choice, everything was their second choice, everything was their third choice. So I left it as is because I didn't know what their third choice was or what it was, so I just sort of left it. But it all sort of evened out in the mix. If you look at the percentage, that's why they may be a little bit off across the board. It was not a lot of people. Just wanted to give you an idea of people who picked virtual as their first choice. To sort of get an idea, so 50% of the kids are represented on here. That's 5 Red Granite kids, 28 Riverview, 41 Parkside kids, 32 high school. You maybe could double that, I don't know. I mean, I can't vouch for the other 50% of the people. But these numbers right here all sort of fall between that 5 to 10% of the school. So there's about 450, 460 kids at Parkside that falls within that realm. It doesn't mean they're going to pick this as their first choice. If we offered, hey, in the classroom Monday through Friday, or virtual, we're going to give you both options. Maybe all these people pick that, but they may not also. When it comes right back to it. Some of the high school kids might say, "What? You picked that as your first choice?" No, I don't think so. Coming back to school. So, as we got these results, came back last week, July 6th, back in here again. We talked as we looked at our results from all the school districts. Pretty comparable across all 3 school districts. Pretty comparable. In fact, very similar percentages. Sort of scary how close they all were. There are some people I think that are afraid. Completely understand that. There are some people get them back to school. They got to be at school. And then there's sort of the middle ground. Like not really sure where they're leaning right now. Things like that. I talked to Ross earlier. I try to put this. This has been a weird spring, it's been a weird summer. You can really go down the rabbit hole quick. If you start watching the news networks, you start listening to things. So some days I just got to rationalize. And so my rationalization is, I looked it up yesterday because I want to make sure I was accurate. There are 24,000 people who live in Washington County. All right, 1% of 24,000 is 240. Currently, and Carrie, I checked this. Currently, there's 12 active cases in Washington County. Okay, there's been one child, not in our school district, but one child that was asymptomatic because in their household they had it, type thing. So 240 being 1%, right now 12 active cases. And that helps me rationalize a little bit. I believe it's real, I know it's out there, I know it's infectious, but I also believe there's a point, and we'll get into this a little bit, what's more risky? Having the kids come to school or having the kids not at school? And we'll get into some mental health pieces that I think are crucial as we go along here to not be in school. So our focus moving forward, usually teaching and learning is number 1. Well, this year it's not number 1, it's number 2 because we can't even get to that if we don't have infection control and mitigation, if we don't have plans in place. Second is teaching, learning, and I put social, emotional, mental health right there equal to it, probably even a little ahead of it. And third is all of us, and I mean all of us, like our community, everybody is going to have flexibility and patience and planning to move throughout all 3 plans. I mean, we're just going to have that patience. There may be a day that I have to put an emergency message out and say we're on 14 days. I mean, that may have to happen. we've all said it would be foolish to think that someone will not be impacted by COVID-19 in our school district this school year. I mean, it's, whether it's one case or 10 guys, you don't know. But we'd be foolish to think that because it is that infectious. Carrie and I, we talk frequently. She's been meeting with the school nurses. I mean, they have, and we'll get into this more, but they have plans in place. Like, if a child has it, they talk about the bus. We're going to have to make sure we have assigned seats on the bus so we know exactly who their contacts are. So we can do contact tracing and then go backwards from there. If an elementary classroom, one kid has it, there's a good chance that whole classroom is going to be out for 14 days, and probably their siblings are going to have to be out. So that's what we're up against in this situation. But again, as we go along, I'll sort of put my feelings towards the importance of kids being in school.
Tom, just real quick on this slide here, number 1, infection control mitigation, 2, teaching, learning, social, emotional, and mental health. How do we get our AP biology teacher to be focusing on teaching, learning, and the things they need to focus on and not the infection? Because this is not for everybody, right? I mean, would this be...
Well, no, that's so when we get into this, it'll be, what are we doing on a daily basis to control infection and mitigate?
We as a district, not
Yes.
necessarily, I mean, the teachers
Well,
are
yeah,
going to...
them too. I mean,
They will, but...
They're going to have to make sure that hand washing, if they're doing a lab, they have like surgical masks so they are all going to be right next to each other, spraying down desks every time kids leave, cleaning. So it's going to be a whole team effort. Yeah. That answer.
No, that's fine.
We plan to spray down, you said sanitize the areas that the students are, especially where they're switching classes, like at the high school level. Will you extend the time between classes so that teachers can...
Yeah, I mean, we can see how that goes, and definitely, I mean, the nice thing is we have an EPA disinfectant that, we can spray on a desk and the kid can take a cloth, and it's going to be way less harsh than Clorox wipes.
Sure.
And it works against COVID-19. So I mean, we can have the kids help us out, towards the end of class, spray down the desk, and wipe down the desk, and stuff. There's going to be a lot of waste this year. But,
that's
no hair, no
So you plan to enlist the kids to help out with that towards the end of class rather than just put that on the teachers to walk around and clear desks? Okay.
Yep. And that's the thing, and I know board members, I have passed these back to you, but at the end of this, I mean, there's a lot of details. This is just very skeleton oriented. I mean, there's going to be so many things that we're going to have to tackle to get staff ready, parents ready, kids ready for all this. I appreciate the questions. I mean, I definitely want to get those. So what are our goals to finish this summer? We definitely need to have a detailed plan. I mean, this is a skeleton plan. It's got to have details. We're going to have to communicate our plan to families, staff members, and community. I envision having like a frequently asked questions link on the school website and keep updating it all the time. So, and then put out emergency messengers like FAQ has been updated today. Please make sure you check it out to families so they're going on there and looking what's on there. Continue to review and prepare all systems, all 3 teaching and learning models, the in-person, the hybrid, and the virtual. And then keep meeting with the health department and the other school districts to make sure that we're up to date. Carrie and her peers are creating documents for all 3 districts that will be the same. So whatever Tri-County hands out, while Rose hands out, Watona hands out, for screening and for all those things will all be the same document. I think she knows somebody that's going to help her with coloring on the documents. I said we can do purple and gold today. So there'll be extra time. But just, I would say all 3 districts have been working closely together. I feel like we have to have the same message. Doesn't mean they're all 3 going to be the same. I'm just telling you that right now. But we're working closely together. And so going back across what you said, I mean, one of the main parts is before they even get here, and by they I mean students and staff, before they even walk in the building, having some type of self-health checklist at their home and reiterating to them that, I mean, we're in this together. Like the parents have to make sure, staff have to make sure that they're doing that. Do I have any symptoms? Am I anything out of the ordinary? Asymptomatic, you can't control that. I mean, you just can't control it. All right, but if they have any symptoms at all, anything that's out of the ordinary, that they're taking that seriously. All right, and they're calling in, and that gets to point 2. We are not going to do temperature checks at the door. Okay, I know some districts do this, some districts talk about doing it on the bus. I mean, I just envision the bus driver trying to do a temperature check while he's sitting on the road, with traffic whizzing by. It's not going to happen. Here's why.
You've already got your lights on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Here's why. It's only one symptom. I mean, there are people who have COVID-19 that didn't have a fever, and they had cough, diarrhea, and lost their sense of taste. All right, it's one symptom. I really don't want kids lined up out the door waiting to get their temperatures checked, coming into school. And then we get into the whole thing of, okay, now a kid has a temperature. How are you going to make that private? And make sure the kid gets to the isolation room away from everybody else without the 10 kids behind him knowing that he, okay, well, we're not stupid. All right, we know that the kid got taken out of the line. So important at home to take the temperature, but we're not going to do it at school. So and that's, again, communicating to parents how important it is that we're all in this together, is they're going to have to be going through this list. We know the parents send their kids to school sick, right? And we all get that. So then, we'll get to that number 3. Number 2 is responsive attendance. Communicating to parents, listen, we're not out to get you, all right? If your kid misses 15 days of school because they've been sick, all right, the state rule is 10 days of excused absences. If you're calling in, you're giving us symptoms, and you're working with us, we're going to work with you, all right? It's not going to be punitive. And so, again, just communicating that. Getting the message from the parent, Johnny is sick today. Would you mind please sharing the symptoms? Because we want to log for Carrie, we want to start logging symptoms and where they live in case we start having like maybe potential breakouts in certain areas. So we're going to ask for symptoms, and we'll put the symptoms in the campus right next, and we can run a report with these kids were absent, here were their symptoms. You know, we can start looking at, okay, cough is bad right now, just so we know that.
Is there a threshold of symptoms where you'd encourage them to keep a sibling home as well?
If they're ill, and correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie, the sibling should stay home.
That will be the plan then. If they're ill, we request that everybody stay home, or if they become ill at school, we're going to request that all the siblings go home as well.
Is there extra personnel in the offices in the morning to field extra phone calls coming in, extra phone lines coming in, so one person in the smaller school is not inundated with a backup of it? Because
Sure.
we could have a huge influx, so can we make sure that there's enough personnel in the offices in the morning that
We
staff
definitely do that, for sure. I mean, and I think, you know, when you maybe start seeing a pattern, definitely could pull people, assistants, you know, I think of Parkside, the high school. Parkside's got 3 secretaries, high school's got 2. Riverview's got 1, but they can pull somebody in. Granted, again, I don't know if they'll get those influx of calls just because there's a smaller number of students. But if they did, Caitlin could pull somebody in to assist with that.
Would it be easy to put a quick Google survey together for absentee reporting? Like, if I could go online and just fill out the symptoms, and Will's not going to be at school today because he has these symptoms, and then I'm not busying up a phone line.
Yeah, we could give different avenues out there, right? Yeah. I mean, how do you feel about that, Carrie? I mean, would you rather they talk to somebody, or would you be okay with like a?
I think that we kind of even discussed the possibility of trying to set something up on the Google thing for the students too. So I think we should look at that further and see if it is something, just so they don't get inundated with phone calls too.
You almost have to say if they're their dads or if they're their moms, if you have split up parents too, they're gonna need to know which house
Yeah, I
they're
mean, we'll communicate whether, you know, putting stuff out, but then I think we're gonna, once we get the paperwork from the county, is we'll be putting documents together and mailing everything home. So yeah, they're gonna get a lot of information between now and probably the middle of August. So, and then the big piece that we talked about is parents send their kids, potentially send ill, or a kid just comes to school and becomes ill. I mean, that happens. Just we have to have isolation rooms in each building. Make sure our teachers have just a small supply of surgical masks. Get a mask on the student as soon as possible. Get them to the office. Get them isolated. Get a hold of contacts. Again, siblings would have to go home also. Again, depending on the symptoms, Carrie would probably try to get a hold of the family and recommend that they go get a test. If they choose not to get a test, they really are not able to come back until the symptoms are gone. If they had a fever, 72 hours without medication before they be able to come back after having a fever.
For the supplies, do we have enough of it? Can we still get a hold of it? Is it still
What-
out there?
what- what?
For your supplies? your
Yeah,
masks
yeah.
and all
We're
that.
surgical masks. I think we can get a hold of. We're going to get we're getting the load of cloth masks from the state and thermometers from Governor Evers. But yeah, I mean, right now, hand sanitizer we're able to get access to. Jugs of it, and we'll get to that too. But, yeah.
And we're working closely with the emergency management through the county, and they're able to offer us a lot of things right now. So we're just telling them kind of what we need, and every week they're giving me supplies of stuff that we'll be able to have available for people, so for staff and students.
Just constant communication of things that can help mitigate this physical distancing. As I told you before, it's going to be difficult even in class because of the numbers, potentially hallway, bus, all those things. We're going to try a variety of measures, and maybe physical distancing is 3 feet apart or 4 feet apart, but to have everybody 6 feet apart in a classroom, you're looking at a very small amount of kids. On the bus, like David said, we might be able to get 22 kids on there and some family members sitting with each other, but then that's double routes and things of that sort. So we're going to continue to encourage it. Also, we talk about the high school. Believe it or not, these kids are hanging out with each other outside of school a lot. People are dating. To me, that's household. It's no different than being in their household. So if a boy's dating a girl and they're hanging outside of school, for me to tell them to be 6 feet apart is no different if they live in the same house together. So it's sending that message, like, if you're around somebody that you're normally not around outside of school, try hard to physical distance. If you're around these people all the time, okay, that's, again, no different. So again, it's just trying to be rational and work through it. So, they've been together since April. And they've been out and about and going that route. Hand hygiene is going to be, that's what we're really focused on. We're going to have sanitizer throughout the buildings. We're going to have stands, jugs of hand sanitizer on the stands, pump on the jug, and kids, we know they're not going to be able to hit the bathroom and wash their hands all the time. There aren't enough sinks. Kids backed out through the bathroom. So again, getting hand sanitizer on the hands in between classes, coming into school, all those type of things. So we're really going to focus on that. Not touching their face, sneezing their arm, all the things. We're I know I mentioned this before, but we're going to, there'll be a video with Buzz, sort of going through all these things, so we can get it out to all the students. So especially the little ones, so they can see, what does Buzz do. Right now, within the school setting, definitely going to recommend facial coverings, especially for the staff. I think that, the staff are with each other because they're older. I think it's important for staff to physical distance, and I think it's important for staff to have facial coverings if they're comfortable. Maybe if they're not buying someone, maybe they can take it off. But those are things we're going to recommend, but not required within the school setting. And then just signage everywhere. Reminding people what to do. Carrie's been working with Katie on signage to put up in all the schools. And those will be consistent amongst the school districts also.
Yes.
Cleaning and disinfecting, really is what we've always done. Soap and water eats away. We know it eats away at COVID-19, and then disinfect afterwards. We have an apparatus called the Victory, we call it the Victory gun, but you put a tablet in there, and you're able to spray. And so now we can do the disinfecting, and then we can come back with that on high-touch areas. So I think initially we're going to start with the custodians doing it, and then if we feel like it's not being done, or if they're having a hard time getting it done, Wayne Craig said that he would flex his time. He would come in early in the morning, and he would do all the buildings to make sure they got done in the high-touch areas, right, with the gun. So it'd be sort of 2 rounds of disinfecting, the spray, and then coming back to the gun. There will also be a gun at the bus bar, and someone after routes will do all the buses, and someone after the night route will do all the buses with the gun. So, again, in talking with Carrie and reading everything online, but really focus on commonly touched areas. That's the focus. You don't need to clean everything, but what are the areas that are being touched often? That's the areas you need to devote your time to. Ventilation, we discussed some guidance today for ventilation. Lucky for us, we have a brand new HVAC system with HEPA filters and all those things. We usually allow 10% in of outside air. We just got from Norm Diesterhaft, who's the emergency management person. I guess that's probably through emergency operations or FEMA. They want 20%. Sometimes our utility bills are going to go sky high, but that is what it is, right? So that air is coming from outside. It's either heated up in the winter or cooled off in the summer, but they want 20% flow. So we have our HVAC guy coming out to figure out how to change all that in all of our buildings, but we can do that. So there are some districts that don't have this HVAC system. And so it's crucial, as David has said, getting that air moving, getting the fresh air in. So we are in a good situation with that. Just going to have to be twice the amount we thought it was going to have to be. And it is what it is. We'll do it. Communal spaces, again, reducing opportunities for large congregations. Again, having hand sanitizer stations, tissues, no-touch trash cans everywhere. Water fountains will all be shut down and probably wrapped, but anybody has any bottle filler stations, we'll keep those open. We can buy a part for $100, or we can shut off the front part of the station to keep the bottle filler going. So we've done that. So we'll have the bottle fillers open for kids to use. Staggered use of everything. Again, I'll just put the plug in now, is now that we've got this done, the buildings are now opening up to their staff members to start meeting with their staff members about how can we make this look right in the building. Jewel, how many people signed up for yours?
25
Yeah.
at least.
And Joel opened it up to everybody, 25 people want to come, so now she's got to come to PDC to meet, but that's okay. I think it's a good way to reduce anxiety, it's a good way for them to give their input. Now's the time to get the input from them. Jewel's going to have everything, she's probably already going to have everything, and now she's just going to want, like, okay, how does this bounce off them, what other ideas do they have? And we don't expect them to come up with everything. We have a good idea of what we want, but now's the time to start getting some opinion. And I think, Deb, you've got 3 meetings coming up for your building that people are going to meet, so.
And that's just voluntary for the staff to do?
Yeah, that's just coming in. If they want to be part of like the solution, they can come in. Yeah. Now, as far as training and going through stuff, that'll all happen now when we get together for the service. So, yeah, this was just to come in and be part of. Who wants to be part of talking about this? I'm not going to make light of it, but what's lunch look like at Riverview? It's going to probably be a whole gym. Where's 5 acre? Outside for a while until it gets cold, in a room. So, it's just all of those things. What's that look like? There may be a staff member that's got a great idea that we just didn't think of, but just trying to throw all those things out there. And we've got some. Does that answer your question? This will be a tough one for parents, and I get it, but I think it's a must. And it's definitely starting off. We need to have some internal control of anybody entering the building that's not normally in the building. And so it's going to be limiting non-essential visitors and visits. Open house is the first thing coming up. Plan is virtual. Teachers are by grade level doing a virtual, like, this is what kindergarten looks like, this is what first grade looks like. Having a drop-off day for their things before school starts so they can drop off their materials. Again, we're not going to want to have shared materials, so we're going to have people to have their own stuff. So getting that done ahead of time.
Would you consider a staggered real in-person open house for people that are making a big transition, like 6th graders getting locked for the first time, freshmen coming up in high school for the first time?
We talked about that, and our fear was like people who weren't in those grades are going to show up, and then we're going to have to tell them, no, you can't. We just envisioned like this. That was a good idea. My hope is by parent-teacher conferences, and we'll see where we're at as far as the community. But if we can have people come in with facial coverings and meet in the classrooms for parent-teacher conferences at every school, man, that'd be awesome. If we can get to that point by October, and we'll have to see where our numbers are and bounce it off the health department. We get parent-teacher conference, student meetings like IEPs, things like that. We're hoping that we can either do a virtual or by phone, again, so people aren't having to come in. Parents want to eat lunch with their kids. Again, not that we don't want them to see their kids, but kid comes out, they go sit in the car with the parent and eat lunch. Or they sit outside of the school and eat lunch, but they're not going to be able to come into the cafeteria. It's just not going to be possible right now. Again, we'll see how things go. Vendors and contractors that have to come in, they'll have to go through the protocol when they come in the office, and they'll have to have facial coverings on. So if somebody needs to work on the copier, check into the office, go through the screening, have your facial covering on, go fix the copier. All right. Delivery people already have that taken care of. So UPS, FedEx, milk person, food person, they go through protocol before they even get in their car or their truck. So they can come in, don't have to have facial coverings, come in, get their job done, and get out. Again, that'll all be communicated. And we even thought of, like, when you said first day school photos, it's a big deal, right, for certain grades. And so we talked about telling some students, like, maybe 4K, kindergarten, whatever. Well, it's okay to be late that first day to school if you really want to be out in front of your school and get your school photo taken. So just working with the families on that, if that's very important to them. But they're not going to be able to come into the school and do photos in the school. So. Again, reducing shared objects, spaces, and equipment as much as possible. You get into a Penny Meeks lab, they need to use those computers because they're things they can't do on the Chromebook. So those are going to be wiped out after every use. Goes back to what we said. Students are done, spray the keyboard, wipe down the keyboard. Otherwise, with Chromebooks as much as possible. Their own Chromebooks, so they can don't have to be touched over again. Same with the sanitation protocol of those spaces. For recess, our intent right now is a lot of kids go out for recess and hand sanitize before they go out, hand sanitize when they come back. We're not going to be able to sanitize the playground. And I just try to envision my mind of a bunch of kids being outside and saying, don't touch the playground equipment. Everybody stay, this far apart and do this thing. Again, we're gonna try to space groups, but again, we're trying to keep it as normal as possible, as same as possible, and really focus on the hand stuff. Carrie, we all read, I'm not a doctor and I'm not predicting anything, but there is a lot of research out there about the younger the child, the less apt to contract, the less apt to spread. I know there's some data out there, there's more studies being done, especially in Europe, as time goes by. Again, just, I'm trying to keep things in perspective, overall, just so you're aware of that. I think as we get to October, my recommendation, as I told Ross, is that we will not be approving any field trips, we will not be approving any fundraisers in October. There's the ones you do for fundraisers or solicitation, we're not going to encourage solicitation of fundraisers. If there's some type of fundraiser that doesn't require solicitation, the building principals can approve those fundraisers. Field trips, potentially if one small group of students were going to go somewhere and they were allowed to go there, like the place allowed them to be there, maybe we'd look at that. But not large groups, we're not taking big groups on field trips. And definitely not overnight out of state. So, just so you're aware of that. Facility requests for community use in internal areas, we're not going to approve right now. So youth basketball wants to use the gym for practice, youth wrestling wants to. Right now, I'm saying no. Something changes between now and November, all right, good for us. But right now, no. Outdoors, more apt to do it, but they got to add us to their rider. On their liability insurance, our school district. And I think they will, but I don't know if they'll happen. So, you asked Jeanette about PPE and mitigation. Carrie's got her connections, Wayne's got his connections. Dave Riley has some connections to the bus garage. Tammy has some connections to food services. So we're just maximizing all those connections to the best of our ability and trying to figure out what we have and don't have, trying to get what we need. Trying to keep a few months stocked up so we don't get behind. Hand sanitizer is becoming, as Carrie indicated, much more readily available than it was. So that's a positive. I was really worried about wipes, but I think with our disinfectant and just paper towels, we're going to be fine. That'll be a lot less. Okay. Student transportation, David brought up. Ideally, it'd be great to place 22 students per bus. That would be one kid against the window here, one kid against the window there. All right, and so they would be 6 feet apart. We got high back seats. Family members are together. However, we really don't have many routes that have 22 kids on them. Most of our routes are 30 to 40 kids, and some are more. All right, so to run 22 kids per route, we would have to run double routes. So that would entail someone like David going out, getting half his kids, bringing them to all the schools, going back out, getting the other half of kids, bringing them to all the schools. So one group would have to get there here really early, or one group would have to be a little bit later, depends how you do it. And then at night, one group goes home, then you gotta go get the other group, which has been waiting at school, and you gotta get them. So I just envision like a really bad weather night, or got a bunch of kids sitting at school waiting to go home when it's not snowing out. So my recommendation is that we wear, and I ran this past the county and in our legal counsel, is that we require students on the bus to wear facial coverings. And we go to a seat. And they have assigned seats, and we know who they're by, but they have to have facial coverings to ride the school bus at any time.
I want enough disposable coverings now for that.
Yeah, so we can get enough to give the drivers, like if a kid comes on doesn't have one, we can give them one, but we're going to encourage parents to make sure the child has a facial covering.
Yeah,
but we'll have additional to give.
There you go.
Yeah, that is how you ask. Yeah. Surgical masks, even
Yeah.
at the bare minimum. Carrie was working on getting pediatric masks.
Okay.
For their, because I think that's going to be the kid who's going to get on and have them as they're going to be a small child.
Sure.
I can just envision like a 4-year-old getting on and hearing.
Tom, can you quantify what double routes would mean to our budget?
So obviously it's double pay to drivers, and it's double also in fuel. So it could range anywhere from $300,000 to $400,000 for a double route. And I don't believe it's what's best for families. I mean, if we had to pick somebody up at 6 in the morning or earlier than that, and if we have to bring them home even later than what they were supposed to get home, I think if a parent is diametrically opposed to this, we would encourage them to self-transport if they're opposed to it.
And I would guess you're predicting you're going to see a lot more self-transport.
I would do.
Anyway, our ridership should be down significantly.
I would
be
think
surprised
so.
if it's not.
Yeah, that would be part of my message out to the families is, with the stipulations, if you don't feel comfortable riding the bus, please call Dave Riley, the bus driver, to let him know they're not going to be riding so he can make adjustments to the route. So he knows. We're going to give bus drivers facial coverings. I know Carrie's been working on getting some KN95 masks, more facial coverings. I don't have on here as mandatory because, again, I feel like the bus drivers are adults, and I really would love for them to wear a mask because they're on the bus. But if they don't feel comfortable wearing a mask driving, I mean, I don't want to say wear it and then something happens. So they're going to have all the resources available to wear them when they drive. We're not going to withhold anything from them, but I'm going to leave it up to them. I mean, it's their choice. It'll be the same with the staff. Going to really encourage staff to wear them. Again, talking about disinfecting bus surfaces, sort of the self-transport, school building entrances and exits, again, stuff that the buildings are working on. You know, I know Jim's like, students who drive, you're going to go by the field house. Students in the bus, you're going to go by the PEC, trying to, again, reduce congregation in areas. All right, again, a crucial piece, and I do have a little bit of data about social emotional learning. I looked through Wisconsin. I had the WIA one. I looked. There is no other real research. There's research in other countries and stuff about the social emotional impact of isolation of kids not being at school. WIA surveyed. They put a survey out to athletes. 3,300 athletes responded in the state of Wisconsin. I'll just give you this is real short. 65% of those respondents reported mild to severe anxiety from the spring, and 68% reported symptoms of depression from the spring. That's 3.5 times higher than normal. They didn't have historical anxiety data, but they had historical depression data, 3.5 times higher than previous. So that's 3,000 kids, 3,300 kids that responded. So, you know, I think obviously we need to worry about students, but the very first thing we need to do is make sure that we're working with staff members for them to be comfortable back here. And again, I'm a strong believer, like, this is our jobs, this is where we come to work. If someone's struggling, we'll meet with those people on an individual basis. And by we, I mean the building principal, myself, Cindy Riley, and the person. And we just need to find out, hey, what's up? You know, like, where you're not feeling comfortable, what can we do to help you? If you have some type of situation that we need to look into with the Family First Corona Recovery Act, then we'll look into that. But besides that, we expect people to come to work. That's just what we're doing. Just so you know, and that's the stance I'm taking. I told Ross, I said, man, I want every kid to come back, I want every staff member to come back. But we're at the point right now, I can't chase. Like, the staff member says, well, I'm not coming back to work, and I'm sorry, and if a family says we're not coming back to school, I wish you would, but this is going to take up every moment of every day that we do, and you just can't be chasing people around. We want people back. Again, just review training program to promote, positive social and emotional health structures. We've had social and emotional learning, we've got responsible classroom developmental design, we've had trauma-informed care, adverse childhood experiences. Our staff have been trained in those, our new staff get trained in those. So again, just reiterating the importance of those. I would venture to guess, kids are going to come back with some damage. All right, and we're going to have to deal with that damage right off the bat. So, staff always go through all the policies when they, at the beginning of the year, there's a set number of policies they have to go over. Like mandatory reporting, suicide prevention, and they go through each policy, bloodborne pathogens, all those types of things. They go through those policies, they have to check that they've read the policies and move forward, so obviously we continue to reinforce those. Just ongoing communication with families and staff members, probably from the counselors, from the administrators. We need emergency contacts. Oftentimes families won't give us emergency contacts. We gotta have them. Because if something happens to a kid or something's going down, we gotta have somebody else to call. So we'll be probably even more diligent we've ever been about that. Again, trying to stay clear and positive regarding student attendance and communicate clearly with students about their feelings, provide facts, and be transparent in a developmentally appropriate manner. I don't want to poo-poo anything, I don't want to diminish anything. So how we talk to obviously a 5-year-old about this and how we talk to a junior about this who's feeling anxious are going to be different. But I think we need to be honest and clear and support them.
Tom, when it comes to the social emotional, back in the day when I was trained on, not to do on the design, but responsive classroom, they had that book, like the first 6 weeks. That's really what I hope that we're envisioning is the first 6 weeks is social emotional. Like, to me, the academic part has to be second because it's social emotional. So I really would hope our district embraces the first 6-8 weeks to be social emotional. And even some things I'm reading is, kindergarten through 5th grade, they're really recommending a full hour, not interrupted, of playground recess time, up through 5th grade, to these kids needed to be, contained and so forth. So I hope our district takes that stance of academic, it'll come, but really that social emotional piece.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting anybody out here that disagrees with that at all.
I'm preaching to the choir over there.
Yeah, and you mentioned a good thing I haven't mentioned, outside. We're gonna be outside as much as possible, whether it's fine ed, art, music, even regular class, getting them outside.
I think the differences between kids, the spectrum is much wider too, right? Depending on what their experience was during the being sent home and having the summer, and everybody has a different experience. So you may have some, as you said, some really damaged kids, and some kids where it wasn't a big deal, but it's going to be a heck of a challenge for every building to make sure that you're able to address all of these kids and their individual needs by showing some patience.
Yeah, especially at the high school too. I mean, I know their forefront is, credits and classes, but this has to be a pre-K to 12 thing, a social emotional. I mean, I know we have, as AP biology, chemistry, whatever, but social emotional, because the statistics you have of suicide, I mean, we could talk high school, it's kind of more prevalent. So we really want to embrace that piece of it.
And I think, and I think with the older kids, I think just even walking through that door is going to reduce a lot of anxiety. Just getting back into like a regular situation of that structure. I mean, want that structure so bad. Okay, so we get into, I'm trying as fast as I can. Teaching and learning model in person. So this is coming every day. So with that, full curriculum is prioritized, traditional grading structure, using district and classroom level assessments to determine where are people at, what are the gaps that we have to address. I mean, I think those are still important to know, obviously. Focus on a well-rounded education. I know some districts, I read these things about, we're making FIA do this, we're making art do this. The reason a lot of kids come to school is because of FIA and art and music. So I don't want having those teachers doing other things that they're not trained to do. So I'm making sure that we're providing a well-rounded education, because again, that's what kids get excited about coming to school for. Again, targeted intervention for kids based on the data we have, and targeted enrichment for kids who, as we're also saying, some kids who they might function really well and they're still ready to take off. So we don't want to diminish those kids. Prepare to use a blended learning format, blended learning, and you'll see from Penny and Jess in a little bit. Schoology, we expect them to use at school, like when the kids are here. Because if the kids don't know how to use it here, and then all of a sudden we got to flip the switch and go back home, then it'll be like, oh, wait a second, like we haven't used this yet. And so we expect that kindergarten through 12th grade, maybe when they're in Craig Pines' room and he's got their Chromebooks, so, hey guys, get on Schoology, your assignments are on there today, here's what we're doing, here's this video. So they're using that resource or that learning management system while they're here, so they know what it means. Same with for elementary child, so they know what it is, how do you get on it? Because that'll help the parents out, if the kids know how to get on it. So, daily schedule modification, again, lunches, we're going to have more kids in the lunchroom at the same time, there's going to be a modified schedule for lunches, recess. Again, it's training the staff members on Schoology, that's going to happen the next 3 days here, spread out, and communicate to students and parents how to use it effectively. One-on-one device plan, kindergarten through 12th grade, equity and access to internet at home. We have some of that data, we'll be pulling on that more. Eric has data hotspots for our families to use. Eric and I also talked tonight about potentially putting access points outside or really near the edge. So they'll say there's a group of people who are saying we want the virtual education format. At night they pull their car up here and they use our Wi-Fi in their car potentially to access it if they need to. So just trying to give as many as possible. So again, this is, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, Caitlin or Sierra, did either of you attend the Mind the Gap for prioritizing the learning from Solution Tree?
Yes.
The initial one or the one right now? Okay, I was just going to say I would recommend, if you could, one more thing on your list. They're doing it again, but expanded and deeper, and it's in 2 weeks again for 2 days, Mind the Gap.
We're actually all the building principals are attending.
Okay, perfect, yeah.
Well, attending what they can, depending on
Yeah, you get access for a week, so
Yeah.
But it's just when you say the full curriculum is prioritizing, what they're really saying is, it's not really that, it was essential of essential, because we're going to have a gap and we can't get everything covered, and with social emotional, you have to really prioritize that.
The last week of school, when we brought staff back, we also worked on that. So
Perfect.
they prioritized their standards, and then they also went a step deeper and decided what can they really teach what do they really need to teach face-to-face, and what can they teach virtually, so that when we have to make those shifts, they can flex from one to the other.
Perfect, awesome.
All of that's recorded within our WASD curriculum online.
Okay, great.
And one other thing, I mean, personally, this seems a little bit controversial, but I think it's a good practice is, you know, juniors and seniors have open campus. Talking to Jen, I think we allow them to have open campus still. You know, they go eat, they come back, they wash their hands when they come in. Here's a lot of, first of all, it gets a group of kids out of the school during lunchtime. And secondly, if you don't think those kids are stopping at Quick Trip before they come to school to begin with, or stopping at McDonald's or whatever, they're already stopping somewhere. Again, if we're practicing good hand hygiene, we say, hey, in order for you to do this, again, when you're coming through, use hand sanitizer, clean your hands. They're probably not going into the restaurants anyways, probably going to drive through as it is, but just so you have an idea.
Are there outdoor spaces where we could encourage them to eat on campus if they're going through a drive-through?
Yeah, for sure. In fact, even kids who eat here, we have outdoor spaces for them to go to.
So that mean adequate amount for, let's say, 100 kids wanted to do it?
Probably, I don't know if we have that much. Yeah. But that's something to look at, though.
Yeah.
Ed Whitwell took a couple picnic tables from KRB and in the morning. Perfect. The next one is the hybrid model, or whatever you want to call it. And again, that'd be the Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday. Again, sort of Nicole, what you had mentioned. Now we're going to have to start determining curricular priorities. Okay, now we're essentially at school half the time, not at school half the time. Still traditional grading structure. Still all the things that we had talked about before, which are very important. Again, schedule Monday, Thursday, cohort A attends class, cohort B is virtual learning, Tuesday, Friday, same thing. Wednesday, and I didn't change on here, I apologize. This is sort of pet peeve of mine, I know it's a pet peeve of Ross's, because you see it everywhere. We're going to take Wednesday off to deep cleaning. Okay, if I'm someone outside, like, well, what the heck are you doing the other 4 days? Right. Are you not cleaning? Strike that, don't even act like that's not even there. I wrote that because everybody else wrote it. This is going to still be a learning day. All right, for kids. But it'll be a time for staff to have office hours with parents, office hours with kids, sort of getting caught up. Because imagine, again, you got 4 days where you have a group of kids 2 days and another group 2 days. You really can't communicate with those other kids. You know, either group on their off day because you're with another group of kids in your building, in your classroom. Wednesday gives a day to like, communicate, make sure we're getting caught up, maybe even doing some one-on-one with the kid, like office hour type stuff.
Staff would report in person those
as long as in this model, yes,
yep.
For sure. Yep.
Tom, when the cohort A is in class and cohort B is virtual learning on a Monday, is the teacher taping that live and then recording it so they have to like double do it twice?
What do we decide?
What do we decide?
We've been going back and forth on this for a couple of reasons, but we decided no, correct? That there would not be two sets, it would be the same lesson. And then they would have
record it live and then record it, right?
We're going to teach it twice.
We're not going to teach it twice.
We're going to teach it twice. And here's why, because we were fearful that if somebody didn't have access and they missed it, they missed the new instruction. So if you were here Monday, you would have something to work on Tuesday. If you were here Friday, you would have Mondays to work on. Yeah, we had it worked out because we were fearful that if we did instruction on Monday and new instruction on Tuesday, the Monday group, if they didn't have good internet access, they would miss all the content that happened on Tuesday. So we were, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that's what we determined, that was our fear.
So teachers are going to tape then on Wednesdays, or how's that going to work for them to tape record the kids that we're going to...
Well, they'll have it back on Thursday, Friday.
Right. Yeah.
So they have Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday. So when the kids were there Monday, they got the lesson, whatever extension they were getting to work on Tuesday. When they come back on Thursday, and Wednesday would still be a work day too. So work days would be Tuesday, Wednesday for them. Come back on Thursday to go over what they worked on, and then so forth. So I think that was our initial trial to go over that, but we were fearful if we did different instruction that the kids may not have access to it. We were still hashing that over because we have disagreement on the team. Right. Not in a bad way, just trying to.
Yeah, because the big thing now is the buzzword is having the webcams up, that route, so the teachers does not have to teach it twice.
Yeah.
I'm delivering it, record it, shove it off to the internet.
Yeah.
So the building principals have been talking about this, and in fact, just hours ago we were discussing it even further. Part of what we want to do is wait to get the training in Schoology to see what our options are. A lot of people have worked really hard, put in many hours, and are presenting for many hours. So we're going to attend those trainings to find out what our best options might be, and then as a district have the same expectation across buildings, so that it's not, well, if I'm in this building, this is the expectation. If I'm in this building, this is the expectation. So we'll try to be as uniform as possible.
I will say too that we want the learning to continue. It's not just a day off or just worksheets.
Right.
So we're trying to figure out how to do that with the population we serve, making sure that we're equitable across the board, but still, like I said, continuing that learning and not just pausing on our off days.
Even Wednesday. If Wednesdays everybody's off, that's still a little bit.
I would have to guess the younger these kids are too, a 5th, 6th grader, is he gonna sit down at 8:30 in the morning when he's at home and watch the lecture on the push play? Some will, because mom or dad is standing there, but I think the gap will continue to widen too between the kids that just don't have to do it.
Well, I think some will watch it right at 8:30, some will watch it at nighttime, but it's there. I'm just worried about the teacher having to double do lessons. My only concern is teachers teaching on Monday, and then there's a group home on Monday. How am I gonna get them themselves? So I'm not giving them worksheets. I want to give them some authentic stuff.
And I think you wouldn't get into that flow until you had them on Thursday and say, hey, you're back on Monday, here's what I need you to accomplish by Monday, and having things on Schoology.
Besides having Schoology, we have a YouTube channel, right, that kids have access to, so we can upload that besides Schoology. We have that.
But not everybody has good access for computers.
I'm just trying to think of all the avenues that we would have for
There will be some trial and error too.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is just to not be rigid in our thought, right? I mean, we're building this in a vacuum right now, and we don't know what the hell's going to work and not work. So, I mean, we'll learn a month in and just be fluid enough to adjust on your feet and go from there.
And ultimately, we're doing what we're doing because we believe that the best opportunity for learning is to have them here.
Correct.
First is being at home, and I mean, we know what the percentages may be there, so ultimately to have them here learning in the classroom with their teachers is ultimately what we want to do.
And I envision, I just in my mind, I'm just always preparing to, people being angry, like calling me angry, and I just, I'm going to be very patient, and I just want to help them solve the problem. Because they probably get why they're angry. I mean, they're anxious, they're frustrated. I mean, this is for everybody. I mean, and so not getting offended by it, or, like you said, it's got to be fluid and flexible. I got to take, we're all, not just me, but they're going to feel it too. People are going to call up and be upset. And, I can just even imagine the bus thing goes out about wearing facial covers on the bus. Got to get phone calls, people are going to be angry. And I have to explain why. You say, hey, we got to stick to this is why. But just understanding that it's just an anxiety-ridden time for everybody, and just looking at it through that lens. So, and again, it just always being prepared to move through all the models, always. Then the last one is full-time virtual. This could equate to people who don't want to come into the building. All right. It could also equate that we have to do it as a district. It is something really good sideways, and we have to go that route. Ultimately, we would not want to, but it could happen. Again, what are our curricular priorities with this? Traditional grade structure. So if a family says, I want to keep my kid at home, I want to use what you guys are offering virtual learning, they're held accountable to what we're doing. So we'll do our best. I know Adam mentioned like taking tests and things like that. You do your best, you try to set up a situation. I know there are different models out there for having somebody videotape themselves while they're taking a test or whatever, so you can sort of see what's taking place. But going to virtual doesn't mean that you don't get to do anything. And so if they want to do that, they should homeschool. Realistically, and I'm not diminishing homeschooling, I'm just saying, if they don't want to be held accountable to our standards, they want to do their own standards, they could go the homeschooling route and do that themselves, or pick another virtual school.
So they have to choose in school or virtual, or can they choose also hybrid? Are we saying no? You have to do
no.
Hybrid is your choice.
So as we, and this pretty much speaks for itself. So my recommendation is going to be when it gets to the action item, is that we do full-time, bring everybody back, and also offer virtual for people who aren't comfortable. Maybe you have somebody in the house that has a compromised immunity system. Maybe the child has a compromised immunity system. But there's going to be accountability with that, all right, with getting work done, performing. If they're struggling, we'll help them with whatever we can. We will help them out. Again, if they don't like that, they want to go the homeschooling route, that's their option. We lose them as an enrollee, but it is what it is. I believe, and I don't think anybody here would argue, that trying to do all three models would be impossible to do. Our staff would be burnt out in a heartbeat. Because we need to see like what virtual looks like. So, Jewel and I have already talked about this. What if Jewel has 42 kids that want to go virtual? Okay, that's probably going to be flexing some staff to not have kids in school, and they're just going to be virtual teachers. That'll be their caseload. And so it's just sort of trying to navigate that. What if at the high school, we have a bunch, maybe I have to, middle high school, maybe I'm gonna have to hire someone to be the liaison, the virtual school liaison, to keep tabs of all the families, because it could drive the teachers insane trying to keep tabs of everybody. We really need to see what the numbers are before we jump on it. And we should, my message out tomorrow through the messenger will be, here's where we're going with, here's our options. If you're thinking about doing virtual school, please still register, but then contact your building administrator so they know, so they can start.
I think everything that we've done here, or you guys have done here, which I think you've done a great job. I think what it speaks is, in a situation where you're the farthest from normal as possible, they need as much normalcy as possible. I think that's the bottom line. I think that's what you got to look towards. We have to take the precautions and do everything necessary to curb the situation, but ultimately, normalcy is what these kids need more than anything to heal and move forward.
Tom, a little bit of a loaded question, but if you take the social and emotional learning piece away, can you tell me, just academically, that you can provide as good of an education for my child if I choose virtual learning for my kid as you could on site?
No. Well, we could.
No.
I just don't think we're, and I think if you ask the same question to the UW and Madison staff, they would tell you the same thing, or they should, because I don't think it's the same education.
So it took you half a second to answer that question. This is a message to parents, right? Then you take the social and emotional learning on top of that, and you start to realize the effect of us being able to try to get these kids back in school. You're correct.
And I'm not saying that's to disrespect our staff or the
No.
parents. It's still,
That's what it is.
It's still new. Like we haven't done it, and most districts haven't.
That interaction in the classroom says more than you really understand. I mean, that's part of it.
Just some other documents just for your, and Carrie, these are all Carrie's, Franceschi's, and they'll get made up. Just sort of a flow chart. Came my kid to school today, and really anybody should be using this, even staff. And it's something to reiterate when you're out in public too. If anybody in your family is being tested for COVID-19 or you've been in close contact, and the key is close contact, and usually the health department will let you know if you're in close contact.
How are we defining that?
Yeah.
Because I have different standards that I've seen, and the standards we've implemented, at least in my company, are, and I think these are right from some health department, 15 minutes inside of 6 feet, more than 15 minutes inside of 6 feet, or any direct physical contact, a high five, a handshake, anything.
That is correct. Those are the guidelines that the state has written.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said.
Okay. And then we took it a step further and said that if you know that you've had contact with somebody like that type of contact, don't wait for the county to call you. Go ahead and start your self-isolation. Listen, if you're out doing something with a buddy, you're going to know, he's going to tell you before the county is 2 days later. So, with my staff, we've encouraged that. That's become our policy. And it's an honor system. We have to trust that people to do it and exercise, some restraint. But and I know it's a pain in the ass to isolate for 14 days, but it's just and that's the other thing. The negative test, you're still supposed to isolate for 14 days. Again, the guidance I've received.
If you have been labeled as a close contact, then yes. Even if you have a negative test, you still isolate for that 14 days and self-monitor at home. So that is the recommendation. They are recommending and encouraging people to test at like day 5 to 7, because that's when they're seeing the test flip to positive if they're going to be. That's what they're seeing right now.
Yeah, I just think it's important to clearly define that in whatever policy we're giving out to the staff. And I think the onus can be personal responsibility too, and not just, you gotta wait for the call from the county. If you know, let's face it, we're gonna know, start that protocol immediately. One, for the perception of the safety, and two, for the actual safety. I mean, we have, everybody feels differently about this, and community perception is a huge thing. We have 17% or something in the community that doesn't want their kids in school at all. And so, we have to respect that, how everybody's gonna feel and how it looks if we're not doing that stuff as a staff.
And the good news is, since we've been pushing this hard, especially with the fitness center, I have had a few staff members that have reached out to me for guidance.
Yep.
Just what you said, and the good news is they, weren't even close to.
No,
but you know what? At least they cared.
Yes.
Caring is half the battle.
Yeah. And yeah, I just think that in whatever meetings that you guys have with your teams, it's going to be super important to stress that, and that the personal responsibility aspect of it, and that is what we stress in my offices, and it's difficult. You can't police what people are doing outside of your work environment. I understand that, but it's time for people really to think about what perception you're creating when you're out.
And not be selfish.
Yeah.
I think, Adam, you make a good point, that the onus is not on the county to say, well, you've been in close contact by our definition, because you know, if you were, you agree with what he said about the 15 feet, or what was it again?
6 feet for
So
15 minutes.
it's 15 minutes in an enclosed area, if you're less than 6 feet. So they don't consider outside, so it's like an enclosed area that you're in for 15 minutes, cumulative time, less than 6 feet. And any type of hugging, high five.
Any physical contact whatsoever, yeah.
No. So again, that person knows better than the county would know, saying you've been in close contact, because you don't know, right?
We will be informed immediately when their test turns positive, so
Right.
we will be right on it.
Well, yeah, we
We'll know
know
if it's
that.
positive test.
But when you get somebody in there to contact trace, and they've had X number of contacts, and you don't know if they're remembering or they're thinking or what they're doing, and I know you can't release the names, but the onus isn't to just sit and wait for you guys to call them. My point is, the employee knows whether or not they've had close contact. It has to be a team effort. Don't just wait for the county call. Don't just try to sneak one by if you know you had the contact and say, I snuck out, the county didn't call me, I don't have to isolate. Be responsible and isolate. So.
I agree.
And a clean test is not clean, right? Really?
Not in that sense, if they're negative, they still have to isolate.
Yeah.
That's a recommendation,
Yep.
is that they still isolate.
I just think there has to be zero confusion about that whatsoever.
Yeah, and that's what we're gonna work on, these scenarios, a positive, a contact, and they're gonna be clearly defined like that. We're
Sure.
working on that today.
Beautiful.
And I think there is for 9.9 out of 10 people.
Yeah.
Pretty open, and it's just unfortunate that one person truly could ruin it for
Exactly.
the whole school district.
And again, you're also dealing with, I can't stress this enough, community perception. We want parents to feel like the teachers and the staff are taking all the necessary protocols. So whatever's, unfortunately, you guys might be judged harder, more harshly on the community if sets of parents are going to feel unsafe sending kids to school because what they're seeing staff members do.
True.
Not socially distancing, not doing this. Is it fair? No, but it is.
I think fair.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're not taking it seriously out there, why are you taking it seriously?
Do you step in with that a little bit? If you are hearing that, some staff members are not, it is summer, I get that, but if some staff members are in a situation like that and they're not abiding by being in contact with somebody and, they're coming back negative, but still they're in contact with somebody, where does the school step in with that piece of it?
Well, there's probably things I should know.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas,
But if I do, sometimes you make just offhanded phone calls.
Yeah, okay. Little hint.
I even had some social media stuff that I had to deal with that I think was innocent, but it was sort of cavalier, and some parent was very concerned, so I had to address that. So, because we can't control that. That's a policy. It represents the school district. Just so at the very bottom thing here, and I think this is crucial, is because I went down to Illinois or I went to Minnesota. As Carrie's explained to me, everywhere's a pandemic, doesn't matter where you go. So there are no more hot spots and then coming back in quarantine. International travel, I laugh because nobody will let Americans come to their country anyway. So I don't think we have to worry about that. Just a minute. And then you have the staff daily screening. I did send that out to district staff last week, early this week. What day was it? Last week, yeah. So I did resend that out to the whole staff again. And then the student daily screening is very similar.
With that final question, international travel, and when you go to the doctor's office, they're not asking that, they're asking if you traveled out of the state. Are we gonna modify that at all? Because that's what I was asked.
I contacted the state just to make sure, because before we release this, I want to make sure we have the most accurate information, and the epidemiologist from the state said, just complete international, because it's everywhere, and you can't control where people go anymore, so, just the international portion of it.
Yeah, so and then I just gave you, you've already seen this before, but just by department, sort of details. We get closer, I'll be going through with each department leader and just going through those and make sure we some of this is old already, that I put in here, but that's going to be on the road. So thank you for allowing me to have a lot of time to present this, but I feel it's very important.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
Good job.
Thanks to everybody.
Yeah, to the rest of the administration too, you guys all worked hard on this, thank you.
Item 2, current electronic device procedures at Parkside School and Watona High School with discussion.
I know, nobody, not to point anybody out, but I know Jeanette or you guys have expressed concern about electronic devices at the secondary level. So I thought it'd be good for Deb and Jen to just sort of present what they've been doing and what they're seeing, and then maybe just even get some reflection from you guys about, what are your biggest concerns, so maybe they can take that back and try to retool. And Jeanette, I shared with them the program, and this again more of a middle school. It's designed for middle school, but they're trying to develop a high school one. But what they do is very similar to that. But I'll let them talk. So go ahead, guys.
I can start. Well, our protocol really started when Tom and I started in 2015. So our protocol is really, there's not supposed to be on and out during the class period. They can have breakfast, they can have them in passing, they can have them at lunch. But during the class, the teachers are to enforce that they're supposed to be put away. That's why our biggest issue is that inconsistent enforcement. So teachers enforcing it consistently is where you see the numbers come up of kids doing it. But on that sheet I shared with you on the bottom is our device information on this document. And as you can see, since we started it, it's completely went down from what teachers are enforcing it. Significantly, from 350, 5 years ago when we actually put a plan in place, to now there's 111 and 94 different students. So it's not the same kid abusing it and not learning from it. It's those one-time incidents really that they're just getting it out randomly or messing up. But again, this isn't enforced consistently. We're still working on that to be enforced consistent. I would say overall, it continues to look better in the high school where kids don't have their phones out. Or there's more flexibility of it's work time, just like you might put an earbud in and let them work with an earbud in. They're allowing that, but they have to do it off their Chromebook. So the phone really isn't out unless it's a desperate time, like in art, they can do it on lookout photos or something like that. So we've decreased that. We think it's been working well. And again, it just comes down to enforcement. No matter how you do it, the staff needs to enforce it consistently. But overall, I think it's going very well at the high school with cell phones and something we can continue to work on, absolutely. But kids are learning from doing it because it was pretty tight right away. First offense, the teacher takes it, then you get it back in class. Second one, it goes to the office till the end of the day. Third one, your parents have to pick up. Fourth one in school, it just keeps going. If you ever refuse to give it up, you're an automatic 3-day out of school suspension. Kids don't like that. I think we went down majorly from my first year to now, to like last year, I don't even know that we had maybe 1 or 2. Where my first year, I think we put out 25 kids that would refuse to give up their phones because we were already enforcing it. So much better. Any questions on high school life?
And this renews after a month, so if they...
The whole year.
The entire school year?
Understand we're flexible. Like if a kid gets it out in October and it was an error, and then in February again, something happens, we try to work with them a little bit instead of going and hammering them hard, but doesn't happen very often. So throughout the whole school year, the consequences keep going. It never resets.
Yeah, those frequent offenders. They're the ones in the middle.
I guess my main concern, why I always kept bringing it up, if it's more or less when we were in school, we passed notes, we did that stuff. Now these kids are texting, now they're taking pictures of things in a bathroom, they're doing other things. That was more my concern of them misusing it, even, taking a picture of a teacher doing something, not wrong, but, then they just put it out there, that's why. And these kids don't know how to put it down. They don't know how to work, they don't know how to be without it, and that's what my main concern was, is they gotta be without it. It's not hooked to them.
My point is, I've read the information, and it's an integral part of the training within a school classroom. I really don't believe that. With Chromebooks available, you still have hard and paper copy, almost everything is issued. I don't believe that. You got a computer lab, if they want photo information on their time, they can do that. I don't believe that cell phones in any way are an integral part of the education of our children in our classroom. I think there's more negatives to it. This is my opinion, of course. I just don't believe that in any way you can sell me the fact that a cell phone is an integral part of education of our children in any way in a classroom. You can't sell that to me in a million years. Sorry. I understand where we are these days, in these times, with the technology. I know it's there, but it's more of a disruption. I hear it every year where somebody's playing their phone, they won't turn the music down, it becomes a larger issue. They come to us for whatever has to be taken, next steps have to be taken. So, to me, there's more of a distraction and more a negative to it than in any way it can be a positive. Once they leave this building, that's their business, that's their item. But for me, cell phones are making in all tech devices, obviously the technology is there, but I believe our kids are becoming more depending on it. They're not socializing appropriately, they're not interacting the way that I would expect them to interact, to be positive in the open world. When they go out and take the next step forward, I don't think kids have that same ability. You can see it. I mean, anybody that's a parent, that from the time they grew up to the time now, how kids interact, it's a totally different program. So I wanted to make that point, and I've never been supportive of them in the school, and to this day, you will not see me supportive of cell phones in the school atmosphere whatsoever.
And like now they're saying that they're so dirty, like I do nursing homes. There are certain things that I have to clean, I'm not allowed to bring in. I'm not allowed to bring my purse in. I'm not allowed, because these things are the most dirtiest things now. So now if you have them in the lunchroom and you have them places, it's another concern if the kids are, look at this, they're touching, showing. So I feel like now is the time that we need to really focus on saying that you gotta be more stricter about it. We have a landline. The parents have to call. It's called a landline. They call the school.
I think those are really valid points, and I don't know that there'd be anybody that would really disagree with the points that either one of you have made. It does come down to a lot of enforcement by us, and us getting out to the policies and reinforcing them with both staff and students to get compliance. I think the other thing that we struggle with is that parents are continuously increasing a demand to be in contact with their kids constantly. And so part of the deal is that we're also finding an expectation from the parents' perspective. I need to know where my kid is and if they're safe and all those sorts of things. So that's another piece of the pie where we're kind of trying to hold back the tide here. I agree with you. It's a struggle.
My kids, so
yep.
I don't.
But that doesn't carry water with me too, and I appreciate your point. But when those kids come into the school, they should understand where they're at. Once they leave here, that's their personal life. Once they step out of that building, if their parents want to know them, then I would expect that child to contact their parent or the individual who's looking to communicate with them. But once they're in here, they should expect nothing but education and what these children are walking through these doors for. Mm-hmm. Once they leave, then by all means, that's their personal life. If that's what their parents want to do, then by all means, I support that. But once they're in here, our job is tough enough as it is without any other distractions. And what we make available for them as far as Chromebooks and the technology we spend a great deal of money on, they're not necessary as far as I'm concerned.
So at Parkside, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Debbie. I'm
So
sorry.
at Parkside, we used to be more strict with our guidelines, and we eased up a year ago. So last summer we revised them. So the second and third pages are guidelines for 4th and 5th grade, and then 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. 4th and 5th graders, I don't know that they ever have them out in classrooms. So really, it's if they bring it, they should either tuck it away in the backpack or give it to the teacher to store it in a location. So our 4th and 5th graders don't have them out in class. If they have the smart watches or that ability, we treat it the same as a device. We let them wear the watch as long as they're not checking it or it's not going off and not doing something in class. 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, we eased up a little bit, and it was actually by the request of the secretaries as part of that reasoning, was they'd expect, or they'd email teachers and expect them to get messages to kids, and they couldn't always get those messages in time. So what we actually did to ease it up is, kids were not allowed to have them in the cafeteria. They're still not. They're not allowed to have them in the bathrooms, in the gym, or in the locker rooms. The way we eased up was passing time. So I kind of relate that to someone at work. It's like their break time. You know, when you're in the classroom, a lot of teachers don't allow them, or if they do, they want them tucked away. They don't want to see them, they don't want to hear them, they don't use them. I'd say that's a lot of classrooms. Sometimes they do allow it for various reasons. Maybe they'll let them listen to music, maybe they'll use it for a calculator, maybe certain apps to take surveys in class, whatever. But oftentimes it's using the Chromebook like you mentioned, Gary. So by allowing them to use it during passing time, we feel like we're teaching them to be responsible with it. So while I'm at work, I know that I can use it before I arrive at work, after I leave work, and a lunch break. Okay, that's really when I should be, the only times I as an adult should be using my phone for personal reasons. So we treat that, the kids a similar manner. You know, during passing time, that's your break time, you can check it. As long as it's not creating issues, you know, you're taking pictures and posting it, you know, they can't do it at school, but social media or whatever. Unfortunately, this year we didn't have issues with that. I think a lot of kids still were in that mindset of I don't use it during passing time. So it didn't create issues.
So if that's the case, why not get rid of them? I mean, if that's the case, what would you rather do? Would you rather walk into an area of children where they're communicating with each other, interacting with each other, having one sitting over there by themselves on their phone, one over here, no interaction socially whatsoever? I mean, there's...
Yeah, my response to that would be when it wasn't allowed, they were sneaking it. And so now they're trying to do it, we're telling them they can't. If we're allowing it, they might check it, they'll look at it, they'll send their parent a text message if they have to, or respond, but otherwise then they put it away. So I don't feel like by giving them that leeway that they were...
And if there's an urgent communication, the means that we have in place, by hardline or any communication for that matter, a teacher can call the school and we can be in touch with that student within seconds or minutes maximum. So as far as that's concerned, emergency situation, something where you have to communicate with an individual, that's in place. I'm sorry, I mean, I understand.
Are we in a position, we're trying to, I'm just...
No, we're not, I'm just voicing my opinion on something that we're talking about as far as what they've done in the past as far as curbing.
Well, to me, the numbers look pretty good. It's gone down, and
Well, I understand.
and I think it's totally unrealistic and going to grow increasingly unrealistic as kids get devices younger and devices get better, that they're not going to have them in school.
So the point that I'm making is that at what point do these assist in their education?
Well, I don't think that anybody's trying to make that point.
And I would tell you too, I don't know if I spoke wrong, but they don't allow them unless they're taking a photo in photo class to use their phones. They have to use their Chromebook. I think you'd be surprised, and pleasantly surprised, if you walked our hallways or looked in our lunchroom. Kids are constantly socializing. They're not on their phones a ton. Are they still sharing inappropriate things? I feel like I can never police that. They're going to do that regardless if I let them have their phone or not. It's going to affect kids. But you go into our lunchroom and, yeah, kids are randomly having their phone up, but they're literally talking like the old days, sitting at the table talking to each other. You know what I mean? So the classroom, you rarely see a phone out. It's just not allowed to just pop it out and put it back in. Most of the teachers are really enforcing that's not seen. They use the Chromebook. So they enforced that last year a lot. They were starting to let the phones be used for listening to music. Now they have to use the Chromebook if they want to do that. So the phones can't be out. But I agree, I think it'd be hard to just say the phones aren't allowed in the building. I think we'd be...
Other districts are doing it.
I think it'd be hard to do in the fact that they're gonna sneak it constantly.
They're sneaking it now.
Right.
So I mean, that's, I guess I kind of agree too. I mean, yep, they're becoming more and more popular, and yep, you know. But I like the thing that Jeanette brought up before of, you know, away for the day. I think it was called or whatever. You come in, it's in your locker, it's there, and at 3 o'clock or at the end of the day, that's when it comes back out. And you know, you mentioned some teachers are letting them in their classroom, but they're not allowed to have them out, and some don't let them in. I mean, so we're already kind of contradicting ourselves, because some will say it's okay, some. You know, just, you can bring it in the classroom, but you can't have it out. And some will say you can't have it in the classroom at all. So, I mean, I think we're already contradicting ourselves there and some of that stuff.
And the point was made on their description about how it's are important components of the learning process, inside and outside of the school setting. So, yes, they are making that point about education.
It was just, I took a class in January, and it was called Away for the Day. And that's why I kind of brought it up, and I just thought it was interesting. And I have a daughter that was 35, and 27, 29, and I have 18. So I've been through all of it, and I'm sorry, but she didn't have a cell phone back then, and she did okay. And parents called online, you know, called on a landline. So I just think sometimes they just gotta be kids and not rely on always that electrical device.
I don't disagree at all with the comments and the away for the day philosophy at all. I don't disagree with it at all. Our jobs are, you know, to teach kids and have them learn, and if we felt that it was impeding the learning environment or the learning process, we'd be the first ones to jump on that bandwagon and say, no, we need to put those away because these kids, they could learn more than they are right now. I think our statistics are why we're sharing this is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what we're trying to say is that we don't see this as a problem in the learning environment as we have it right now. And I promise you that if I thought it was impeding any kid's learning, I mean as a whole, I'd be the first one to say, Deb, we need to have these kids put those things away. If it was taking up an inordinate amount of my time because I'm sort of the disciplinarian in our school, I'd be saying, Deb, I need some relief. I can't spend all my time being the cell phone police. I just don't think that that's happening right now. I admire, and as a dad, I respect your opinion a lot. I'm really on the same page as you. But I just don't see that it's being a problem right now at our schools.
That one really, Jim, thank you for that. That one really resonates with me. And I sit here and I'm quiet. This is one where you can hand me a card which way to argue this in a debate, and I can prepare 2 minutes either side. Right? I think a lot of the points you make, Barry, are extremely valid. Brian, Jeanette, you could get me on that team. And then, you know, Adam made some points there about, you know, this isn't going to get better. They're going to probably get more valuable to these kids and be a bigger part of their life. And that's when I now come back to what are the people on the front line saying. And if people concur with Jim saying we would be the first ones that if we felt this was really detrimental to the learning environment and the health of our students, I think what you're hearing from this board, if and when you come and tell us that, or some version of that, it's not going to take much for us to support that. But I'm just not hearing that from the district at this point. And that doesn't mean I disagree with anything you're saying there. I'm there. It's just, you know, Jim's points I think are pretty valid too, that he's saying he agrees with you, but he's not seeing it being a big hurdle for us to get past. And let's face it, a parent, we get lazy. They're very, very efficient. What time is practice over again tonight? What time do you need to pick you up? 5:10. Boom, over. I'm not calling the school. I mean, so maybe that's a good example, a bad example, but it's not an easy topic. No. And you've been amazingly consistent on this, Barry. Yeah. You really have. Yeah. Nothing's really changed for you.
And I feel for my teachers. I mean, I support you guys in every means, and I want you to be successful. Ultimately, when those kids walk through, that's all I care about is those kids getting every ounce of your leadership and tutelage and hopefully move forward to the next level. So I've trusted you to this point, and I'll continue trusting my administrators and my teachers and always be there for you, but at least you know how I feel.
And we appreciate your support as a school board if it does become an issue that we need to address. We have your support.
And it doesn't fall enough here to me. I can tell you, coming in here in 2014 and what it's now like in 2020, it's night and day. It was horrific. And I think, you know, the thing that Jen and Brian did when they were here is the other part that I always struggled with was staff being consistent. But I think they're starting to get that in their hand now, where they're calling people out and saying, you know, it can't be in 10 other rooms, but your room you're going to have it, or as you said, Brian, that just doesn't work.
No.
The kids know it immediately, and they'll be the first ones to say it. And that's not fair to the other staff members who are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Because we get cell phone violations from a variety of staff members, except maybe 5. Never had one. And again, that's not, that, you can't tell me they're not using those rooms.
Right.
They're not following through. And I know Jen and Brian the last 2 years have really had a lot of tough conversations about that.
Thank you for listening to me.
Appreciate it.
Can I say one point? I taught technology the last 4 years at the middle school level, and one thing that, and I appreciate what everyone's saying, the one thing I will say is that the technology is not going away, but one of our mission statements is to develop our students into a position, into young adults that are going to be in the career field. And so we have a responsibility also to teach them how to use that when they are that person in a career. When is appropriate, like part of the unit when they're in 8th grade, we go over that, like in the career unit, like when is appropriate to have electronics out? How do we use them correctly? How do we avoid this? One of the biggest surprises that I have is when I ask them, how many of you talk with your parents about your cell phone and what you should and shouldn't do? Maybe 2 hands every class. Do you know what you're accepting when you go onto TikTok? Nope. So I mean, part of the job when they become in 8th grade, like that I go over is, I start to look at, to that point is, I'm concerned very a little bit like yourself is, how can we protect them as well with that cell phone stuff? So I look at, for my class, like in 8th grade, they do use it a little bit when they have their career movies that you watch and stuff like that. They bring in pictures, but also my biggest point is teaching them to be responsible with it. And you know, when they are in the career field, that I always call it when they're on their cell phone, and like if I'm on my phone right now not doing work stuff, that's stealing company time. You know, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same at school. When they're on their phone at an appropriate time, they're stealing that school time when they should be there. And so when they get into that 8th grade position, it's really educating them about that as well.
I think that's a great point. There you got, if you got your students qualifying to use your cell devices before they bring them to school, there you go.
So I mean, that would be
if you really want to make them accountable and make them understand that what right and wrong is, why not teaching it up front before they bring it into school? You can sign it.
Getting it earlier and earlier.
Well, that's why, but regardless,
Yeah.
if you want to bring your electronic device to school past the course required, you to make sure you're responsible for it. Once you sign it, then you're certainly, once they sign that, they know what they're accountable for.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, because I mean, realistically, students don't know very much about their phones at all.
I mean, thank you.
I mean,
Great point.
So that's 8th grade, is there something that would?
Oh yeah, I do
lower
6,
grades?
yeah, 6 and 7. And like, my biggest point is I don't want to scare students at 6th grade level.
Right.
And it gets progressively a little bit more every time. But I mean, like, you just kind of see them, like, even you talk about some of the popular apps out there and on the phone and things of that nature, and you kind of see their eyes bulge out a little bit, like, really? Yeah, did you know that you're leaving your location on and people can see where you're at? And you explain to them when they get a little bit older IP addresses and how you can point that out a little bit more, and you explain a little bit more as they go further along, and, you know, like, Officer Hendrickson, you know, Snapchat, they think that, you know, within 5 seconds or 10 seconds the photo's gone. No, it's not.
Right.
I mean, that's easy information to pull out. And where is all their information going? You start seeing students' minds turn a little bit, and you can see, it's not that they're worried, but they're like, oh. Like, and so yeah, 6th and 7th and 8th grade, it starts at 6. We focus on digital citizenship throughout all the year, or every year, that they come through my course at least.
Deb, what, you know, 4th and 5th grade, what is the percentage of our kids that have cell phones? Do we have that on
I'd say
that?
it's very small. I don't know the exact number, but a very small group brings it to
I think 6th grade would be a great point to have start. At least look into it to see if that's something that you can bring up with your knowledge and set up something where, I mean, I think that would certainly make the children understand where they are at and have that accountability, that once they take that course and sign that document, then I would think your policy would carry more weight.
Okay. You had mentioned something, sorry, just one other quick question. I think Deb, you mentioned something about not being able to send and stuff, being a post out if it's because of firewalls blocking stuff. I mean, is there similar stuff at the high school as well to
Yeah, that's all the
limit?
same.
That's all across the same?
Yep, district-wide, yep.
District-wide,
Yeah, realistically, if they try to get onto the district Wi-Fi, it's firewall. And so they're only allowed to go certain places. They're not allowed to send certain things. Certain applications aren't going to work. So I mean, it's just.
But if they're on their own device.
If they're on their own device, their own data, you can't control that. Like, I mean,
Go back to that.
Yeah.
but yeah, if they want to get onto the Wi-Fi here, yeah, they're gonna they only have access to one of our Wi-Fis that are available, and it's the one that does not require a password, because then again, we capture what is happening. Or better yet, we filter what can't happen. So to the best of our ability, I should say.
And to reassure you, like Tom said, ours is just gonna get tougher and tougher. Like we've done the last 2 years, it's not uncommon that I would walk through and just look at kids take their phone now. Like without the teacher, they know that I'll help take phones, whereas before it was a process. Now they just know, and we'll continue to reinforce that at the high school, where they just know they're not gonna be on their phone during class.
Good, anything else? Thank you very much, good information, good discussion. Item 3, Schoology Learning Management System.
Alright, we weren't sure if the lighting would be what we would want it to be for a presentation, so we made copies for it as well. Actually pay for it. I'm just going to briefly help introduce Schoology. I've been a part of helping figure this out here the last month and prepare for this week. I'm going to help introduce kind of what it is, and then Penny and Jess, as well as the rest of our tech coaches. They represent 2 of our teachers who serve as technology coaches. Does anyone else like them? We have 2 more. Each building has a technology coach, and we've also brought in a couple more staff, and tomorrow we'll be presenting, as well as the rest of the week, Schoology basics. Okay. So the first slide here, we just thought we could use the acronym LMS. We want to make sure that we all understand what those things are. So LMS stands for Learning Management System. So maybe you have college-age students, or maybe you have kids engaged in online learning environments. You might have heard of Canvas or Blackboard. Some of the UW systems use. Schoology is similar to that. So Schoology is a product that works K-12 to facilitate online learning. You see the definition here, helps with administration, documentation, tracking, reporting, delivery of educational courses. So as we hit COVID and our environment of education very quickly shifted into a virtual learning environment, we noticed that our district, as well as many other districts, ran into challenges. Things like access became a bigger issue than we've ever had before. Things like how we organize materials and how we communicate those materials out to students and families, as well as just having consistency. Consistency across buildings, but also consistency of a teacher to a teacher next door, and how we were able to deliver. And so we feel like we did the best we could given. But as our admin team started reflecting and started to realize that this was going to continue to draw out potentially, we realized that we needed to search for a solution that we could bring onto board to our tool set that could prepare us to do better given the fresh start of this next school year. And so we as an admin team started looking at learning management system, reached out to a couple districts that we collaborate with in other ways. And towards the end of May, our admin team made the decision to move forward with Schoology. So Schoology, we've gotten some train-the-trainer training, and like I said, this week we'll be giving some more intensive training to staff. So Penny and Jess are going to show you kind of how Schoology will impact the 4 different groups of stakeholders that we have in our district. So our administrative team, our teachers, our students, and our parents, they're going to highlight some of the features that Schoology as a product will bring to the district and hopefully help better facilitate whatever learning environment that we tend to be in throughout this next school year and beyond. So I'll hand it over to them.
So from an admin standpoint, Schoology allows you to collect the student and report how much time they're spending online, when they're doing the activities, like when they're active. So from an administrative standpoint, we can track that information a little bit better. It also allows all the administrators in our district able to see what's going on in each classroom easier. When we were using Google Classroom, they would have to have access to all those different Google Classrooms. As an administrator, they can have access to our classrooms and see what's being assigned and very easily through Schoology. Also, we'll be able to facilitate professional development using a feature called groups. On the student side, they have groups that'll be like their basketball or their FBLA or whatever, but on the staff side, we can have different professional development groups where we can provide training that way to staff. And the biggest thing, I feel, is that it syncs with Infinite Campus. So when a student comes into the district and Julia like adds them in Infinite Campus and gives them, and then the guidance gives them their courses, within, I don't even know what the magical time is, boom, they're in my course. Whereas when we were using Google Classroom, I would have to either add them, or I'd have to give them a code to add themselves. Whenever a student comes in, they get to go in. When they leave, they go out of your course. So that are the big things about the admin side. As a teacher, we can deliver course content seamlessly, like we were discussing. Can you pop to the next one? So, what is that? Maybe it's the next one.
Can you refresh? I made some changes.
Yeah, well,
we added some things as we were asking questions. We're like, okay, let's put some more information in there because we didn't know how much we wanted to inundate you with, I guess.
Right there, slide 6.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Thank you.
So the question came up like, what can you embed into like a course? So we'll be training the staff. They can add just a plain assignment. There's, they can add testing quizzes. They can add an assessment that they build in right into Schoology. It has
18 different types of questions, all like, different kinds, not just multiple choice as they
right. So they can like move things around. They can. There's just so many things they can do with it. But right here under an add file, link external tool, you can embed a YouTube video. You can embed a GIM kit. You can embed an ed puzzle. And ed puzzle is where you can take a YouTube video and put questions within the YouTube video, and then give them a score based on that. So there's so many features. They can add a discussion, so like they're here in person, but just having a discussion just like you would on any other media. If you want it to stand out more, you can add a page, so it like opens a new page, so it's not all like mixed in. So there's a lot of different materials that staff can put in, and they'll be trained on that this week as well with our breakout sessions. You're able to differentiate for students, so like you can differentiate for just one student giving them an assignment, or you can make groups. And you can have 2 or 3 different groups in your class and give this group one assignment and give this group a different assignment really easily. That's a feature that is really exciting when you have different types of learners in your classroom. Obviously, you can assign and collect assignments. I think that's a no-brainer. But another thing I really like is that when I put an assignment out there, it notifies the student that that assignment has come out. Whereas in Google Classroom, when you post an assignment, they'd have to like go to the classroom and look at the classroom and find the assignment. They have a notifications bar that's going to pop out to them. And so as a teacher, I can feel like, hey, everyone should know that they got that assignment. So I'm really excited about that. You can add just a quick announcement that draws more attention to something other than an assignment, like, hey, remember to bring your calculators to class today. You can do that. And then teachers...
Excuse me, does it push that notification to a separate device?
It goes to their Schoology account, but they have a Schoology app on their phone.
They could.
Like, so like if they got the we're not opening that calendar right now. But if I
push that notification to their cell phone
at 7 o'clock in the morning, I could say, don't forget today's pajama day, and they could get the notification for pajamas for pajama day. Anyhow. Moving on, but I, as a teacher, receive a reminder. So when an assignment's turned in to me, I get a notification, hey, John turned in that assignment. And so then I can know which assignments I need to go in and grade. Whereas with Google Classroom, which many of us were using last year, I had to go to the class and look at the assignment and see who didn't turn it in and who now had turned it in. Whereas now that's going to come for a list of to-dos for me to do. As I mentioned, there's a lot of applications that integrate with it. So if you've heard of, obviously, Google Drive, Edpuzzle, Quizlet, Kahoot, GimKit, Nearpod, and WeVideo, we've partnered all those into our system already. Nearpod we're working on, but so that they'll integrate seamlessly. So when the teachers are using those, that will really work well for them. And the last thing from the teacher perspective is staff members in the same department or with similar curriculum will be able to share their resources together, so like they can push their resources out over here and another staff can grab that resource and just pull it into their classroom so they can coordinate curriculum.
Okay. For students, there's a lot of different positives. Just like Google Classroom, they can view assignments, they can complete them, they can submit them in Schoology. They can take assessments. The assessments are kind of nice because you could embed a Google form. So in talking about not trying to burden teachers more, because there's going to be a lot of changes, obviously, and instead of having them create everything new, they can actually embed things that they've already had the past couple years and use those still in Schoology, which is nice. However, there is an assessment feature where you can create assessments in there as well. But the nice thing about it is the kids stay in Schoology. So as Penny was saying, if you embed a YouTube video, if you just gave the kids the link, they go to YouTube, and then they see this video, and it's a half an hour later. I mean, I do it as an adult sometimes, where I'm like, oh yeah, what did I come on here for? Well, what's nice about this is everything is in Schoology. So you'll see it in
the video.
Yeah, it might be in the video. But it's all embedded in there, so if you are going to put a link to a learning activity or a video or something, it's actually right there for them. They don't have to go to an external site and then go down those rabbit holes.
Jess, if I can interrupt, one of the biggest concerns I have about students is having them stay organized. Now, we give them planners, and I'm not ready to take the planners and throw them out the window, but they have to write down their assignments in there, but then they have to keep looking back and when is this due and when. And
you're going to see that in a little bit.
Okay, sorry, doing your fun.
So these are just some examples of things, like when a teacher assigns something, this is what a student might see. So if they put a folder, they would see a little folder. They have little icons for each different type of thing. So this one is an assignment. This one is just a page, so it might be, maybe it's information for the students, or maybe it's a video that they need to watch for something. And then this last one is a discussion. So that's kind of what the students would see. And it goes right in order. The teacher can decide what order they go in. Teachers can also set student completion rules. So like if I want to get my course ready right now, I could do that and say, okay, students cannot move on to folder B until they've completed everything in folder A. And you can set like, they have to get an 80% on the assessment, or they have to read this article, or they have to post a discussion or reply to 2 people. So there's a lot of options for that as well, which I think will be helpful for teachers, but also the organization part of students too, so they know like, hey, I have to go in order. I can't go ahead because I'm not going to learn this stuff and then not know.
And so just because students will see this look, there'll be like their to-dos too. So they'll have an order of what they have to finish in a chronological order as well as this kind of order.
Which takes us to this one. So this is just a quick video. Eric's just going to play. There's, I don't know, this one's just a couple minutes. And it shows the student view when they log in initially.
Can you
to Schoology?
Speed that to 1.25?
Which one?
Speed it at 1.
She talks really slow.
No. Sorry. We thought we'd be up there.
Do we have sound?
Yeah,
oh.
The sound bar turned off.
Oh yeah, that time's up, doesn't it?
Yep.
Is there a button? I'm not telling you.
I only got so many arms.
Yes, do you know what the timestamp was that you wanted?
Oh, just go out and come
just
back
exit
to
out.
like, exit out and come back to the
press,
link.
press escape.
Hit play.
Or go to go to a different slide and come back or something. There you
Are we good?
Yeah. Well, I don't make noise.
go. Is it fine?
1.5 is what it was at.
It's not really audio.
That's okay. We can tell you about it. Do you want to just pause it for a second, Sarah?
Sure. Just do the video. I'm so excited.
We're going to give Eric one more chance here.
He's going to be so mad if it doesn't work.
He worked really hard on getting this ready for us today. That's the wrong video.
All right, Chris, can you-
Okay, so anyways, this is the student view when they first log into Schoology. So it takes them to either recent activity or course dashboard, and that's a preference. So for example, As a teacher, I want it to take me to my course dashboard because it'll have all the courses there and I can just click on the one that I need. Okay? Hey, look, course dashboard. The students, they have some options at the top. This is how they can get to their courses and stuff. But over here on the side is really what we feel like is really beneficial when they first initially get onto Schoology. It shows them anything that they have overdue. So if a teacher assigns something and they put a due date in there and that date is passed, it's gonna automatically pop up here in an overdue thing. And then upcoming would be any other assignments or materials that teachers have put a due date on, and those are in the upcoming. So we feel like this kind of helps with the organization. We obviously have to teach kids like, hey, overdue, what does that mean? Because some of the younger kids are not gonna know that, okay? But so they know where, you know, obviously where to look for those. And it's just helpful because it's right there. They don't have to go into all of their courses to see that. This will populate all of their courses. So if they have 7 assignments due in the next week, they're all gonna be in there somewhere, which is really nice. Parents, there is an app for parents as well. There's an app for Android and iOS.
Sorry.
That's okay. This video just kind of shows the parent view actually on the phone. You can get it. You can play the video.
Yeah.
He's like, really? So parents have options. They can toggle between their kids. So like it says my children there. Once they connect, they're connected with however many kids they have, and they can toggle back and forth between their kids. They can look at their courses, their groups, and there's some other options as well. This is kind of like the notifications as the parent. So she's showing her daughter and what she has coming up. So if something is assigned, if something is posted that there needs to be like an action to, so like a discussion or things like that, the parents can actually choose to get notifications on that as well. So they can really be in the know of what does my child have coming up? Because let's be honest, all kids say, oh, what'd you do at school today? Nothing. Do you have any homework? No. And they have like 5 things. So I know there's gonna be some parents that will definitely want to use that to help keep tabs on what they're supposed to be doing in class.
Even content, right? I mean, there's some parents who,
Yep.
you know, they're trying to be challenged.
Right.
And it's like, oh,
Right.
you know, this.
They will see the content.
Yep. So the other things that they can see is any submissions that their child has done. So if there was an assignment, and it was maybe a Google Doc or something, they can actually see their own child's submissions.
Turned in work.
Yep. So if they're like, oh yeah, I did it, and mom and dad go on it, and they're like, oh yeah, you answered 1 question out of 10. Like they can choose to do that if they want as a parent, which I think would be beneficial. Not all parents will want to do that, but some will. Discussion posts, they can see like in the post what they posted. They can't see anything else, so they can't see other students' posts or anything. They can see, like it might say 6 other responses, but they can't see those responses, and they can't see who responded. It just says 6 other responses. Did you memorize this? I watched it a couple times.
Really good on.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else parent-wise. You can press escape now. Oh, one other nice thing is they can message, teachers can message students and parents can actually message their teachers through Schoology as well. So if there are some parents that maybe don't like using other technology, but they want to be involved with Schoology, they can send teachers messages there. As a teacher, we get a little notification saying this person messaged you, so we know that we need to respond to that person. Our next steps, we've kind of talked about it a little bit, is to train staff. So like Sierra said, there's tech coaches and some teachers from each building. We've been working really hard since end of May, making sure we know what we're talking about, so then we can train the staff. And that is starting tomorrow, 8 a.m., well, 8:30. So we have a full day training of like basic stuff, settings, courses, how you can add things to courses, what you can add to courses, that kind of stuff. And then we have another half-day training of grading and assessment, so just diving into the assessment portion of how do you create an assessment, what kinds of things can you do, and how do you push them out to students and stuff. And then there will be opportunities in fall in-service for staff that can't make it these next couple days, or I guess anybody that wants a refresher, or if there's anything else that pops up that we feel is super important that they need to know before the school year starts.
And the one full day training of all Schoology is required by all teaching staff, whether they attend it this week, then they can get points for it. If they don't attend it, then they'll have to do it in fall in-service time. And then also the grading assessment piece is not required, but it's very important, so we're hoping to make sure staff is trained on that.
And I think we have, I didn't do the numbers, but I would just guesstimate about 90% of the teaching staff is coming to the
This
training,
week.
whether it's tomorrow or Wednesday or all 3 days.
We'll try to get some numbers on that because I thought it was really a high.
Like I think there was like maybe one person from Parkside that I didn't see signed up. So I was like, oh, that's really good, you know. But I suppose, you know, what else do you got to do this summer? Might as well come in and get some training.
And then there's actually another day and a half of all these other tools that coordinate with Schoology above.
So those tools that teachers already use, because we don't want to overwhelm. I mean, Schoology is going to be overwhelming for people. We know that because there's a lot of stuff. But we want them to see like, hey, you do all of these things in your classroom already. Now let's show you how they work in Schoology. Because we want to push everything out in Schoology so it's all in one place. So we have sessions based on that too. Obviously we need to provide access and support to parents and students. So how are we going to teach parents how to use the app and what it can do for them? And then also obviously students. That's something that we haven't talked about a lot yet. We're getting through this week with the staff first.
We're hoping we'll be in person with students to make that initial happen.
That would be
ideal.
Like to show them actually, hey, this is where you're gonna go.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
If we can see the students.
Yeah. And then our goal is we're starting this school year. We're using it right away. So people can start creating stuff in their courses this week because they have their courses in already. They might not have students in those courses, but they can at least start creating things to start getting prepared for the school year, whether it be hybrid, in person, you know, online, whatever it is. So.
The only other thing I can think of is that we're really, like, it's not if you want to use this kind of thing, like staff needs to be disseminating their information through this process.
This is what we're using.
This is what we're using, and that'll be conveyed to them tomorrow clearly.
And that will help with the consistency, you know, because some people, like,
If
if a kid had 5 different classes, for science they had to go here, for math they had to go here, for social studies they had to go here, well now they just have to go to Schoology and that's where everything's going to be.
That's both in-person and virtual learners?
Yes. Yep. So you can have a course created that you can just go through in your own classroom, in class.
And you can hide things.
Yep.
You can hide things and put them out, and like you can have it all there and just hide it, turn it off and on.
Yep. And I think for virtually, if we're doing virtual learning, the student completion rules will be really helpful. So if you have that go-getter kid that wants to work ahead and wants to get more information, they finish folder A, they can go to folder B. You know, so I think that'll be helpful as well, especially in kind of online remote learning.
It's probably more of a question for administration, but will we have checkpoints to make sure that we're not having people lag behind getting us into Schoology? Because this will be the year that we'll probably very well need it, and maybe from one day to the next. We're going to launch it tomorrow. We're going to train people up, but as we get into August, September, October, are we going to be making sure that everything is being followed?
Yeah, we actually also, Ross, have people specifically trained in each building as well to be Schoology coaches to help all the rest of the staff get acclimated to it as well. And as they spoke to it, we expect everything on there right away from the get-go so that they know how to use it from the start. So.
Yeah, not in any way, shape, or form optional. This is the new platform.
Mm-hmm. And the nice thing that Sierra said before is it gives admin access to teachers' content. Just so Deb can pop into my Schoology classroom and see like, oh, what is she posting on? What are they learning about in Spanish class? So that gives a little more accountability as well. And we're going to make that perfectly clear to teachers. Like, admin can just go into your courses and see your content, and they should be able to because that's part of their job. I mean,
it's exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
exciting, a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
The last month or so.
We'll get there.
But that's okay. We're nice through it.
And Justice put a lot of time into the course for tomorrow, so like technology, all of it.
Thank you very much. Any other questions on that, from the board?
You can see their excitement.
Yeah.
That's great stuff.
Okay, moving along, item G, administrative reports. Tom, anything to add?
No.
No? Say it this way, do any administrators have anything to add to their report?
I just wanted to add, Parkside has a new sign out front, and then also today the bricks were laid in the front of the school. So if you're driving by Parkside, take a quick look. It looks pretty sharp.
More to come.
Well, just a quick update on summer school. To bring it back up to speed, we're concerned about the gaps, and we're looking at a virtual only reading and math for remedial and skill development summer school from August 3rd to August 21st. We sent out interest surveys to both students and staff to see interest. The survey came back from students with numbers of about 75 people interested in a summer school, K-8. I think we have enough staff to cover those subjects of reading and math, and so the next step is just going to be next week, probably to set out a registration form, see what kind of real involvement we're going to have, and then Tom and I will get together and make a final decision about holding summer school or not. In a ballpark figure in terms of the cost would be based upon just the 2 classes across the grade levels, with the staff, and 15 days of summer school of being between $6,000 and $8,000.
And we get accounted. There is a formula for virtual summer school. They give you so many minutes for having a course, or like 1 hour course. There's a preparation time. 90 minutes per course. Yeah, 90 minutes per course. So again, we put that towards our membership count that people sign. So definitely would pay the $6,000 or $8,000, and it's going to assist us in our school funding come whenever they decide.
Sierra.
I just want to mention, with everything that went on this year, our new teachers really had an odd year as their first year being, some of them first year being teachers ever and some new here. So we kind of delayed honoring them, but on Wednesday, right after Teach Me to Techie from like 3 to 5, we'll be over at KRB. So I invite you to join us if you can. If not, I sent you a form in your email if you'd like to kind of just write a quick blurb to share with them. We had 18 new staff this year, and we're going to do our best to honor them and thank them for their first year in Wasoma. Wednesday at KRB.
And not losing one.
Yeah.
Not losing one.
That's great.
4 to 5 extra.
Anybody else? Board members? I would just a general comment, we'll probably be saying this at each meeting, but I think with what happened last spring, through today and now starting again tomorrow with Schoology training, right? I mean, I think these are the times that really test the mettle of your individuals and your team. You know, from the superintendent to our administrators to our teachers, top to bottom, to our new teachers. And, you know, I think we've had a lot of ebbs and flows. It's been a very emotional time for the district, for the kids, the impact on the kids we talked about. And I'm pretty proud of specifically the group in this room, but also all of our teachers, because it hasn't been easy. And I think we've just, you know, planned day to day, and now you start to see things where we are with Schoology and many other things. I think we've made a lot of strides to the education we were able to provide for our kids when we sent them out the door after spring break and they didn't come back, to what's going to happen in one form or another in upcoming fall. So thank everybody, starting with Tom and everybody in this room, and please pass it along to the educators from us.
Thank you.
Item H, consent agenda. We have 1A, the minutes of the June 8th, 2020 monthly meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the June 8th monthly meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Motion by Nicole, second by Brian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any further discussion? All those opposed? Motion carried. Item 2, staffing, we have 2A and B, I guess just for protocol, Nicole and Karen, let's take 2A 1 through 6 and 2B 1, 2, and 4 through, 1, 3, and 4 through 12. We'll just take Grace separately, just from a protocol standpoint, so we'll go.
That's fine, what is the protocol? I'm going with it.
just don't move.
No. The rule.
No, I think most of the time you just can recuse yourself from that one.
Part of the household, what is the rule on if they're in your household, like Barry boys, I'm saying for Brittany, but like, is it because they're in your household, that's why you?
I think the law is that you would benefit financially from.
That was that's what I wanted to hear, the financial part of it, I don't want benefit anything.
I mean, you can stay here, right? There's no discussion, so let's take, if you're not opposed to that, we'll take 2A 1 through 6 and 2, 1, 3 through 12.
I would rather stand outside if.
Would you?
No. No, I'm kidding. You can stay here.
You're good.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Adam, second by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Nicole, welcome back.
Shed go potty.
Actually, now we will take
I'll make a motion to approve
B2.
Grace Lear.
Second.
motion by Adam, second by Barry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 13, information only staff transfer.
I think that went with your.
Just got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we are now on 3A, student academic standards.
It's the time of year when we have to approve, it's an annual approval that we provide some notice of the student academic standards. So on our website, we have a link to the academic standards for the state of Wisconsin that anybody can have access to. You just have to approve that we have made that available to the public. And we do that every July.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Barry, second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Action items. Business and Finance, 1A, approve June 2020 Treasurer's Report.
I make a motion to approve the treasurer's report as printed.
Second.
Motion by Karen, second by Adam. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 1B, approve the vouchers and payroll.
I make a motion to approve the voucher and payroll as printed.
I'll second.
Motion by Karen, second by Jeanette. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C, approve the school year 2020-2021 nursing contract.
Just happens to be that Carrie is here. Carrie works for Washington County, noted for the late Henderson, and so we purchased her contract through the county. I think there was a few extra days that we asked for, and then obviously cost of living, typical cost of living. So I highly recommend that you approve Carrie's contract.
It's a nominal increase for cost of living. It's in line with standards.
I'll make a motion to accept her contract.
I'll second.
Motion by Karen and second by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item D, approve the transfer to Fund 46.
So as Cindy starts to see the end of the year fiscal standing, right now, before even the auditors look at it, just a feeling that we'd be able to transfer $200, I'm sorry, $200,000. Don't get too excited. $200,000 to Fund 46. And again, that may change a little bit depending on what the auditor says.
I'll make a motion to transfer that money into Fund 46, the $200,000.
Second.
Motion by Karen, second by Adam. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Policy 2A, approve 2020-2021 school reopening plan as presented earlier this evening.
This may seem like a long recommendation, but I guess what I'm looking for the board to approve is there's 3 potential plans that may have to be implemented throughout the school year. Within that, I'm hoping that I will have the authority to move from one plan to another without having to hold a meeting. Perchance the health department would call me and say, listen, we got this situation, we need to move. And obviously I would communicate to all of you, but that I would have that ability to move to another model if we really had to for the safety of the students and the staff. With all that being said, my recommendation is that we start off the school year, as of today, July 13th, we start off with in-person, Monday through Friday, or if our parents are not comfortable with that, they also have the option of virtual learning 100%. So 100% in person or 100% virtual learning as of today.
And you want you're asking for a motion to also vest the authority in you to change from that without having to come to us for a vote, and can we do that?
Yeah, you can. You can give me that authority to, in a heartbeat, if Carrie calls me and say, hey, we have an outbreak in this potential situation, and maybe it's just even at one school, and we're saying we need to close that school down, rather than have to hold a special meeting before we can even do that. And obviously, if it was something that I could predicate over a period of time, I wouldn't make the decision. I would wait and have a meeting. But I just want to be prepared, because I'm hearing that that's something that there's a concern about, is that there might, no different than a winter storm or a water main break. There's a time we have to shut down for a period of time.
Situation.
Yeah, so that would be the only if that occurred. And I would say if anything changes sideways between now and September, we'll definitely move. Yeah, for sure.
Also move to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion by Barry, second by Nicole. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 3, negotiations with personnel. Approve the 3A. Approve the creation of lunchroom custodian positions.
So in order to free up our custodians to do other cleaning essentials during the day, we do have some money in that fund balance for the food services program. We talked with Tammy Stansbury about hiring some individuals who could do cleaning in the lunchroom only, in that area, taking out trash, doing trays, and so we were able to get some, we need to create the positions at all 4 buildings, and then we actually have some after-school program staff who are interested in doing that and then coming back and working in the after-school program. Right now we have 2. We still have to do Red Granite and high school for their positions, and so we still need to find people. But first is you got to approve the position, then you got 2 candidates right after that.
I'll make a motion to approve the creation of lunchroom custodian positions.
I'll second that.
Motion by Nicole, second by Karen. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We can take 3, B, and C together. Approve Sharon Kendrick and Janine Roberts as the Parkside and Riverview lunchroom custodians.
I'll make a motion to accept those 2 people.
Second.
Motion by Karen, second by Adam. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item D, approve the creation of Riverview steering team representatives.
So I'll speak for Jewel because she's way over there. So Jewel used to have there was a team that was formed before her. It was called a Child Find Team, and she sort of dismantled that team and created a steering team that you had to apply and interview for. You'll see there's 2 kindergarten representatives because they both applied. The team determined that they were both valuable, but they still only get 1 vote, even though there's 2 of them. Joel made that very clear, just out of fairness. But this is now your new steering team that Jules created to fit where she wants to go as an administrator with the building. That you okay, Joel?
Yep.
Awesome.
I'll make a motion to approve the creation of the Riverview steering team representatives.
I'll second it.
Motion by Nicole, second by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item J, board governance. Approve Ross Peterson football. High school, no pay.
Wait,
No,
so
I skipped one.
I think they approved D.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So you can do E1 through
So E, approve the Riverview steering team representatives, 1 through 8.
I'll make a motion to approve item 3E, 1 through 8.
I'll second it.
Motion by Nicole and a second by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now item J, board governance.
We
Approve
gotta
Ross
talk about
Peterson.
this one now a little bit.
Yeah.
You talk all you
Where's your
want.
credentials?
I might vote against it.
I want to know if there's a
On
background
your
check.
stats.
There was, actually.
How
Years ago.
How effective are you as a coach? What's your record?
Oh, no. I'm a position
What
coach.
training have you had?
Also move to approve Ross Peterson as football high school volunteer coach.
Second.
Motion by Barry, second by Brian. Further discussion? Nicole? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 2, discussion only, 2018 through 20 WASD staff perceptual survey comparison.
I did just a sort of a compilation of all the items, and just some comments I want to make. One is that the high school, I think, deserves some kudos. A lot of bumps back from the down year last year. So I think congratulations to Jennifer and Bryant for that, and their staff, obviously. A couple areas that are low, and they're part of our strategic plan that we continually, I don't want to say battle, but we'll continue, is at the elementary level, in particular, is the tools to do your job and professional development. Those are things I know that Caitlin and Jewel sort of, when she came on board, still digging deep on, what are you looking for, what do you need, and it still comes back each year, so I know how they are, I know they won't stop. That's still part of our strategic plan to continue that. There are some items that I'm going to recommend to remove and then we'll replace as an admin team. One is number 3, in times of need, staff members are willing to help each other out. It's been between 94 and 100 for the last 3 years. I mean, again, I don't think we need to continue to ask for an item that we're getting high numbers for every year. Another is number 8, staff members at our school build strong relationships with students. Again, that's consistently high over the years. Number 15, I speak to students I do not know. Again, high numbers. I take time to learn and build rapport with my students, strong numbers. I take time to learn and build rapport with my colleagues, strong numbers. And I appreciate and respect the differences among staff members and students. So I guess my intent is I don't want to keep asking the same item. There's always time. It makes us all feel good about it. I'd rather we find some new items that we really want to dig some dirt on for our staff to find out what can we get better at, and not just these become soft ones that we're just sort of lobbying out there saying, every year they're between 90 and 100 on strongly agree or agree. So that'll be, again, we can look at that before May of next year. What are some new items we'd like to put out? If you can think of any that you would like to see on there that you'd like the staff to ask, let me know. That'd be about 6 of them that we would replace. There's some we still need to continue on here because they're not at the level that we want them at. Any questions that you guys had looking at it? The administrators are properly prepared to answer any questions that you might have.
We spent a lot of time on this last year, as most of you know, and I think it's an extremely important tool for us to use and continue to use. To me, it's all about trends, right? And we saw some negative trends that clearly have been addressed. And I think to Tom's point, something we just need to continue, it's that continuous improvement process, right? And what are we going to focus on next? Because we might be pleased with these results, but I don't think we're content with these results, right? We're going to get better. It's just where we're going to focus. So, what are we going to push for?
And, think about this. This with activities drove that retention and I can't remember. But anyways, staff retention, and look what came out of that. And look what product we had out of that. And again, we look right now 5 exit interviews, and 2 of those are retirees. So, I mean, there are positive outcomes to the work that's being done.
I would point out that 2 of those were family moves as well.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
So.
Yeah, strange year, right?
Yeah.
COVID thing. There probably wasn't a lot of movement within districts, but I think it's certainly, again, it's.
And there are openings.
What we're looking for.
It's not that there are openings. No. And there are people retiring. So there are openings. Thank you.
Okay, item 3, discussion only, legislative update. Barry?
Just got off the phone with Mr. Teston, our legislative representative, before I walked in the building. There's still not much to talk about. Legislature is really in no discussion whatsoever. Too many things up in the air, budget-wise. They won't move forward on that until they know exactly when the school's going to take place or what type of opening situation they have. He did make the point, DCI did come forward with their recommendations, DPI came through with their recommendations for procedures, but there was a lot of pushback from districts already saying it was not something that was feasible to follow. He said it's up in the air. Mr. Evers has a lot to do with what may happen or may not happen. So at this point, there's not a lot of movement in any direction. Everybody's kind of posturing on both sides of the aisle. On the left, they're looking for the COVID to continue, from what I'm hearing, for a paper, they're looking for a paper.
Mail-in ballot.
Yes. And the other side obviously does not want that to happen, so that's kind of where everything's at. They're still posturing until this COVID thing settles itself and allows. I think once as he said, once you see some districts come back into the fold, start school under some kind of normalcy, determine what happens there, whether it be good or bad, that's going to determine what the paths are for the political scene to take place too. So hopefully within the next month I should have more concrete information on what happens there. That's really about it.
Good. Anybody else on that topic?
Well, we expect some WIA stuff to start coming out soon. I shared with the finance team that the last I heard, the last video conference we had, for a while they were talking negative 200 per student, negative 100 per student, or potential freeze. Potential freeze would have been best case scenario, negative 200 would have been worst case. They're sort of backing that up to a freeze being the worst case scenario. The taxes back into the coffer have been more than what they thought, and so I think starting to see things a little different. Still haven't changed. According to right now, we would still get the increases we think we were going to get. They would have to go into session and modify that. It can't just happen. They have to go and vote on it. Right now, that is not occurring.
There's a lot of speculation right now, not a lot of concrete information.
I think you just mentioned WAA. Can you comment on anything? I mean, we've started contact days today with football. I heard maybe 7-man football. Just where you think that's going?
So the first thing we'll do when WAA comes out is, again, what we did last time was we met with Patty Wolfile and just said once those guidelines came out for summer sports, what could she get behind? And she came out, we were surprised that she sort of put us in the low risk category. I was ready to go defer right to the moderate, but and by low risk is really that we could, there really no competition, but practices could take place like for volleyball, basketball, just staying away from like a football thing and wrestling, where those are considered definitely high risk activities. And so the next step would be if WA comes out with some guidance for fall sports. Again, we'll get back together with Patty and Carrie and see what their take is. The next step is that we go to our liability insurance, just to make sure they're supportive of going around. So we sort of follow that protocol along.
But everything that's happening to date with the school, you're comfortable with contact days with football and volleyball starting? And,
Do you see a scenario where we could potentially have contests for some but not all sports?
Yeah, I think it's such a weird situation because then you got to find people to play. And so so if they opened up something, there might be all the schools around and say we're not doing that. Yeah. And so where do you go and who do you find? I could definitely see that. And those moderate sports are basketball, volleyball,
pretty much everything.
Cross country,
golf.
Yeah, golf is actually very low way. Yeah. There's very few on that end.
Yeah.
And I guess by low risk, and I apologize for that. It's just how it's worded, but she put us as a county, we were low risk, so we could do volleyball practice.
We could do the moderate risk activities.
Yeah, we could do the moderate risk things, right? And but again, I think she was very adamant about not seeing football being in perspective at all. I just can't see that happening, I think is what she said. And so I can't imagine that's ever going to.
But practice is okay.
As long as you're not doing face to face, it should be drill skill type practice. Yeah. And again, I think we're seeing right now in college football. It's going to get canceled, and I think we'll probably know what's after that. So
I think a lot of this is very political more than factual.
Okay, board suggested future agenda items for our monthly meeting on August 10th, 6:15, right back there.
I guess I got something I'd like to see, and I wouldn't expect it by August because you obviously have plenty of other things that I have to worry about right now. But you mentioned it earlier, like certain policies that have to be reviewed yearly by teachers. Any type of like training programs that we have. I guess in my world, that's all that stuff is considered training, yearly mandated trainings, or what does that look like for our district? What is it? Is it state mandated? Do we have anything that we do above and beyond that, or in addition to any of those? I guess that type of thing, and I guess who polices that, or how is that tracked? Who's doing it, who's not doing it? the training files, they go into personal file, you know, all that type of stuff. What does that look like?
Yeah, there's only 3 things that are state mandated, and that's mandatory reporting for violence, mandatory reporting for child safety, and then bloodborne pathogens are the only things, the 3 things in the DPI that are mandatory. Besides that, there are policies that the staff have to be reviewed, and so again, they go through all those policies, and then they have to sign off that they write policies and they're accountable to the policies. And then they do, same with the trainings. They do the trainings, there's training modules on our website, and then when they do it, then it gets taken, and sometimes Katie gets certificates that she puts in the personnel file for the 3 mandatory. There might be some initiatives that are going on that staff may receive additional training on, like again within our district, trauma-informed care, adverse education, or childhood educational experience, or environmental ACEs. I'll just use that. And then yeah, so I mean, there's going to be some initiatives like that we go through. Again, I can give you a list of all those policies that we go through, and then the 3 mandatory.
Okay.
Yeah. They're on our website too. If you go under staff, and then you go like you remember kids say personnel resources.
It's under staff resources. It's renamed it because people are getting lost in the bubble on the top and staff in the Explore, and you go into staff resources. There's a drop-down menu, and it just made a new website because the training modules. They were going in different directions last year. So I redid the website, and so then when you click on it, I think it's mandatory staff trainings, I think that's what it's called, and then there's 2 separate sections. There's one that they have to sign up on all the policies, and they link to our board docs, and they have a Google form, and then there's all the health trainings that Carrie requires for all staff, and all the Google forms go to her, and she keeps track of that, and I keep track of everyone who's done the policies, and those are required to be done through the Google form, and I check them off as they come in to me by I think before school starts. So everyone does it during the service.
You know, if the board wanted additional training, if they wanted our staff to wrap around, I mean that you would just have to let us know that, and we could try to find people to address that, like experts or people who come in and do virtual trainings, things like that.
Well, maybe you can provide us with a document, the synopsis of what we do, and
yeah, we can just print off that.
Whether we do that at the August meeting, or I'm sure our work meetings are going to start again too.
We'll see. I mean, we really didn't have that many last year, so only as necessary. But yeah, I mean, we can have that for the August meeting easily.
Okay. Anything else? Not? Motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.